Chapter 1692. He was afraid that Chuntian would take things too hard, so he resisted the urge to ask about his injury. He planned to let Chuntian calm down and think things through before returning to the house. However, the noble house meeting was about to start, and no matter what, Gong Gao had to give his grandson Wu Chuntian a call. In the past noble house meetings, Gong Gao had always brought his grandson Wu Chuntian along. Chuntian was his pride back then, and he was one of the stronger ones among the younger generation. No pop-up window but this year. He could only bring Chuntian along. He was afraid that Chuntian would feel uncomfortable, so he wanted to bring Chuntian along as well. Gong Gao had high hopes for Chuntian, but Chuntian, on the other hand, wasn't very fond of him. Even with Chuntian's injury, Chuntian still wasn't favored. He was just valued a little more by Gong Gao, but he wasn't like Chuntian, who could spend a lot of money. His pocket money was still pitifully small. Of course, there was a reason why Gong Gao didn't like Chuntian. Before leaving for the noble house meeting, Gong Gao called Chuntian's phone. Grandpa. Chuntian didn't expect his grandpa to call at this time. He'd been afraid that his grandpa would call to ask about his injury, and he really couldn't talk to him about it. He told him to keep it a secret, so he could only keep it a secret, even in front of his grandpa. But his grandpa didn't call after that, and Chuntian breathed a sigh of relief. What he didn't expect was that this call would come right before the noble house meeting. And so Chuntian asked carefully, "Grandpa, what's up?" "Chuntian, how have you been lately? Are you all right?" Gong Gao's heart ached when he heard Chuntian's careful voice. He thought that Chuntian had lost his strength and was afraid of losing his love for him. "Chuntian, you're a physical practitioner, so don't be discouraged. It's okay if your meridians are injured. As long as your hands aren't injured, you can still use House Wu's Iron Fist arts. As for your meridians, I'll get someone to ask for a meridian unblocking pill for you, Grandpa." Chuntian didn't expect his grandpa to say that, and his heart ached even more. He wanted to tell Gong Gao that he was fine, that he had recovered, that he was a mystic early phase, and that he was about to reach mystic late phase peak. However, his rationality prevented him from doing so. He knew that if he didn't say it now, his grandfather would only be sad for a short period of time. But if he said it, it would affect Lin Yi's important matters. "All right, Chuntian, don't be sad, don't be discouraged. The noble house meeting is about to begin. Do you want to go with me?" Wu Gong Gao asked. Chuntian didn't know how to answer. "It's fine. I'll bring Wu Chunyi with me this time. Why don't you come too? With Grandpa here, no one will laugh at you." Gong Gao said, "No matter what, I'm still a mystic mid-phase, and I'm on the top of the noble houses." "Thank you, Grandpa, but I won't be going for now." Chuntian could only say that. "All right, don't think too much, and don't feel pressured," Gong Gao said. "Then I'll hang up first. Rest well." "All right, but Grandpa, don't worry, I won't let you down. I'll be your pride, and remember my words. I'll do what I say." Chuntian couldn't say too much, so he could only hint. I'll remember that. I'll wait for that day to come." Gong Gao smiled. It seemed like Chuntian's attitude was quite good, and this made him feel at ease. He was afraid that Chuntian wouldn't be able to hold on and do something extreme, but now he seemed to have regained his confidence. After hanging up, Chuntian let out a breath of relief and looked at Lin. "Boss, come. I want to level up, I want strength. I'll shine in this noble house meeting, and let House Wu become one of the top noble houses. Come." Lin smiled and put his hand on Chuntian's meridians, channeling the art of dragon mastery. Chuntian, on the other hand, quickly started channeling his own practitioner's arts as well. These few days, Sun Jingyi wasn't having a good time either. After Hao Sun found out about Chuntian's injury, naturally, they didn't want to marry Sun Jingyi to Chuntian anymore. The old head of Hao Sun had mentioned this to Gong Gao, and although Gong Gao was angry, he didn't say anything. He knew that marrying Sun Jingyi to a cripple like Chuntian was making things difficult for him, and he seemed to have heard from Chuntian that Sun Jingyi had an ambiguous relationship with his boss, Lin Yi, so Gong Gao didn't mind it too much. At this time, even if he couldn't marry Hao Sun, it wasn't a good idea to make an enemy out of them. Gong Gao's compromise made the old head of Hao Sun a little embarrassed, and he agreed to help Gong Gao during the meeting. As a result, Gong Gao felt that this was a good deal. He didn't mention this to Chen Tian at all, because Chen Tian had already said that he gave up on pursuing Sun Jingyi. What was the point of bringing this up? And so, Gong Gao got a great deal for free. Although Gong Gao wasn't in a good mood about Chen Tian's injury, he was able to keep his cool during the meeting. At first, when Hao Sun told Sun Jingyi about the cancellation of the marriage with Chen Tian, Sun Jingyi wasn't happy. After all, Chen Tian had already given up on her and became Lin Yi's follower, so Sun Jingyi didn't care about the marriage at all. Of course, this wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that Hao Sun wanted to marry Sun Jingyi off to another noble house for the benefit of Hao Sun. Jingyi, I've already signed up a spot for you in this year's aristocratic clan meeting. Come with me to the aristocratic clan meeting. See if there are any young talents there, and I'll help you find a husband. It was the old head of house, Sunday. This time, in order to get Sun Jingyi to return to Hao Sun, he called personally. Grandpa, I've already told my family that I have a boyfriend, someone I like. I want to live my own life. Please don't force me anymore. I don't care about wealth. I just want to live a peaceful life. Sun Jingyi hesitated and refused. I don't want to be a sacrifice for the marriage. Chapter 1693. T. You're a member of Hao Sun. How can your marriage be decided so casually? Besides, who said that you're a sacrifice? You're a practitioner of the first stage of Hao Sun's art. Do you know how important your strength is? You're the target of all the big houses. As long as you agree, you could become the young mistress of House Yu. Elder Sun panicked after hearing Sun Jingyi's words. No pop-up window. I don't want to be the young mistress. I just want to live a peaceful life. What's so good about a noble house? Didn't my parents die because of sex in noble houses? Sun Jingyi wasn't interested in her grandfather's suggestion. I just want to be a normal person, and I've proven to you that I have the ability to support myself. I have my own company, my own business, in a place without the influence of my family. Cough. You're trying to piss me off. Elder Sun started coughing violently after hearing Sun Jingyi's words. Grandpa, what's wrong? Sun Jingyi was shocked and asked hesitantly. Jingyi, tell me the truth. I think I'm at the end of my lifespan, and I don't have many years left. Elder Sun sighed, his words filled with helplessness. So, there are some things that I have to make arrangements in advance. Otherwise, Hao Sun will be in danger. What? Grandpa, your body? Weren't you still very healthy the last time I saw you? Sun Jingyi hated her uncle's family. Her uncle was the one who suggested the marriage with House Wu, and her grandfather didn't force Sun Jingyi. So, although Sun Jingyi didn't like Hao Sun, she still had some feelings for her grandfather. When she was young, only her younger brother, Sun Yi Kai, and elder Sun treated Sun Jingyi well. The others thought that Sun Jingyi was an outsider, not a part of House Sunday the last time. The last time you saw Grandpa was 2 years ago, right? Old Man Sun said with a bitter smile. Sun Jingyi's heart suddenly ached. Jingyi, I've never forced you to get married. You should know that when the Wu family came to propose, I just told you to get along. I didn't promise anything. Old Man Sun said, among the children of the third generation, although I won't say it, I actually dote on you the most. When you were young, you should know that when your older brother, you, and your younger brother got into trouble, I scolded them, I know. Sun Jingyi said quietly. However, you have to know that you are a child of the Sun family. This is an unchangeable fact. As for your marriage, I can give you a certain amount, but it must be an appropriate match. Old Man Sun said, the marriage between the aristocratic families is something that every family does. This can't be changed. Think about it. If you marry a man of humble origin, how can you go back to the Sun family in the future? How can you face the other aristocratic families in the future? My boyfriend is actually very powerful. Although he's not from an aristocratic family, he's still a swordsman. Sun Jingyi listened to her grandfather's words and had no choice but to use Lin Yi as a shield. No matter how powerful a swordsman is, it's useless without the support of a family. You're talking about a rogue cultivator, right? Old Man Sun said. Actually, You can say that I'm overbearing or unreasonable, but I will never agree to you marrying a swordsman without any power. This is not only related to the future of the Sun family, but it's also related to your own happiness. My own happiness. I know. Besides, he's really powerful. Sun Jingyi argued. No matter how powerful he is, how powerful can he be? Could it be that he's a mystic class master? Old Man Sun asked back. You have to know that only when a rogue cultivator reaches mystic class can they barely gain the respect of the aristocratic families. However, in the eyes of the hidden houses, they're just some thugs and lackeys. Their status is far lower than the aristocratic families. So, Jingyi, just treat this as my last request before I die. I won't ask you to marry into House Yu, but you should at least marry someone from one of the aristocratic families, right? Grandpa, I think he's a mystic class master, Sun Jingyi said helplessly. Besides, he seems to be very skilled in medicine. Can you let him take a look at your illness? Oh, mystic class? Old Man Sun paused. He was just saying it casually, but he didn't expect that Sun Jingyi's boyfriend was actually a mystic class master. Although a rogue cultivator of mystic class wasn't as important as a golden class master in the eyes of the hidden houses, but a mystic class master was a very powerful existence in the eyes of the aristocratic families. Old Man Sun thought even further. If Sun Jingyi's boyfriend was really a mystic class master, then if he agreed to marry into House Sun, then House Sun would gain a mystic class master out of thin air. This meant a lot to House Sun. House Sun was a family that focused on healing, so they didn't have any combat masters in the family. It was a good thing to have a combat master. This would bring more benefits than marriage with other families. Yes, he's a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi bit the bullet and said. She was talking about Lin Yi, but Lin Yi actually had nothing to do with her. If that's the case, then I'll give you a chance. Bring him back to House Sunday. If what you said is true, then let him attend the meeting of the aristocratic families with us. Having a mystic class master is also a good chance for House Sun to show our face. Old Man Sun said, Of course, the premise is that he must agree to marry into House Sun, huh? Old Man Sun's first condition was enough to put Sun Jingyi in a difficult position. Bring Linny home, and to attend the meeting of the aristocratic families? Would Linny agree? Now, she wanted Lin Yi to marry into House Sun Jingyi's family. She might as well just kill Jingyi and be done with it. What? You're not making it up, are you? Old Man Sun heard Sun Jingyi's puzzled voice and frowned. That's not it. It's fine to meet him, but can it wait? I don't want to make our relationship public for the time being. Besides, he won't agree to marry into House Sun Jingyi's family. After all, he's also a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi said with a bitter face. I've already given you the chance. This is my bottom line. Old Man Sun said, if he joins our House Sun, then our House Sun will increase in strength. Then I can still accept it. But if he only marries you, then you'll belong to him. It's better to find a big family to marry into. Biden_Phil slot. Chapter 1694. I'll try. Sun Jingyi said helplessly. I'll ask him first. Okay, I'll wait for your news. But if he doesn't agree, or if he's not a mystic class master, then please forget about it. Elder Sun said, Jingyi, you should know that if I leave, House Sun won't have a good life. I understand. Sun Jingyi sighed. Can't no pop-up window. I'll wait for your news, Elder Sun said. Then, Grandpa, please take care of yourself. Sun Jingyi suddenly remembered some of her childhood memories. Although her grandpa was a domineering and strict person, although he was a bit of a male chauvinist, he was really good to her. Don't worry, although my body isn't good, I can still hold on for a year or two and watch you guys get married. Elder Sun said. Although her grandpa asking her to marry someone else seemed a bit unreasonable, he gave her a choice. It was much better than those parents who directly decided their children's marriage. But how was Sun Jingyi going to ask Linny? Pretending to be a boyfriend was fine for Wu Qintian, but if she lied to her grandpa, would he be able to see through it? Sun Jingyi was very conflicted. She had no choice but to call Lin Yi. Hello. Not long after Lin Yi helped Qintian increase his strength, Sun Jingyi called. Linny smiled and picked up. Looking for the great thief? Linny, I have something urgent to talk to you about. Can you come? Sun Jingyi smiled bitterly. She wasn't in the mood to joke around with Lin Yi. It was too sudden. If Lin Yi didn't agree to go back with her, what would she do? Now, Lin Yi didn't know why Sun Jingyi was looking for him so urgently, but he wanted to calm down and study martial arts. It seemed like he couldn't do that for now. Yes, now is that okay? Sun Jingyi said anxiously. It's really urgent. Okay, where are you? I'll be right there. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi weren't too close, but they were closer than normal friends. It was only because Shantian became Lin Yi's follower and stopped harassing Sun Jingyi that Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi slowly drifted apart. It's noon. Let me treat you to lunch. We can talk while we eat. I know a Six Taste House. It's a new chain. I heard the food is good. Jingyi asked. It's behind Songshan's first school. You'll see it when you get here. It's a big sign. Okay, I'll go now. Lin Yi replied. Lin Yi put the martial arts book on the table and said goodbye to Meng Yao and Yushu before driving to the Six Taste House. At the entrance of the Six Taste House, Lin Yi saw Sun Jingyi's red Audi A4L. It seemed like Sun Jingyi had arrived before him. Lin Yi parked the car and walked into the Six Taste House. A waiter walked over. Sir, are you alone or do you have a reservation? Before this, did a lady with the surname Sun book a private room? Lin Yi didn't know if Sun Jingyi greeted the waiter or not. May I know your name, sir? The waiter didn't answer and asked with a smile. My surname is Lin, Lin Yi said. A lady Sun Jingyi booked a private room. Sir, please come with me. The waiter confirmed Lin Yi's identity before saying. Lin Yi nodded and felt that the service of this shop was not bad. The protection of the customers was also quite in place. He followed the waiter to the door of a private room. The waiter made a pleased gesture to Lin Yi and opened the door for Lin Yi. So fast. Sun Jingyi had just arrived, and she was a little surprised to see Lin Yi arrive so soon. You said it was urgent. How can I not be fast? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why? You're not in a hurry anymore. No, but it's not that it's very urgent. Sun Jingyi was a little embarrassed. But it seems that the call of my lover is still very powerful. Lover? You still have the nerve to say that. When there's something, you treat me as a lover. When there's nothing, you don't even have a phone call. Lin Yi smiled. Moreover, I said that I'm a lover, but I didn't get any benefits at all. Until now, let alone a kiss, we didn't even hold hands. Isn't it a bit too sad? Okay, half a lover. It's just a fake, the kind of nominal. At most, if you make me fall in love with you, I can give you some benefits. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi affectionately and blinked her eyes. Come on, I don't believe it. Don't lie to me. Benefits? Instead of wasting time with you, it's better to go home and hug Tang Yin. Lin Yi shrugged. He didn't fall for Sun Jingyi's temptation at all. I was fooled by you in the past. Do you expect me to be fooled again? In other words, the same trick doesn't work on practitioners. Right, what's your strength now? Sun Jingyi heard Lin Yi mention practitioners. She suddenly thought of something and quickly asked, Why? Why are you suddenly asking this? After hearing Sun Jingyi's words, Lin Yi became alert. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't trust Sun Jingyi, but this was a critical time. The noble house meeting was about to begin. Lin Yi and the people around him had to be kept a secret. Otherwise, if House Yu found a hidden House Yu, it would be troublesome. And Sun Jingyi was from House Sunday. So, Lin Yi had to be careful. Although Lin Yi didn't have much contact with Sun Jingyi, his instincts told him that Sun Jingyi wouldn't harm him. He was afraid that Sun Jingyi would be used by other houses. After all, Wu Qintian and Sun Jingyi's relationship was well known. If someone wanted to find out about Wu Qintian, they might start from Sun Jingyi. Lin Yi had to be careful. Of course it's useful. Just tell me when I ask. Sun Jingyi didn't notice the change in Lin Yi's expression. She flipped through the menu and said, Isn't it the same as before? Don't you know? Lin Yi asked. Mystic? Middle phase? Jingyi wasn't too sure, since she didn't remember much of it. She was just surprised that Lin Yi was a practitioner as well, since House Sun's training was the unconventional type. Jingyi wasn't as sensitive to the difference in strength levels as other practitioners. And more or less. Lin, he said ambiguously. Let's not talk about this. Why did you call me here? Chapter 1695. I heard that the dishes in the House of Six Tastes are all created by the owner himself, and it said that there are more than 6 seasons: soy sauce, vinegar, salt, sugar, MSG, and chili. But the taste is very good, Jingy said as she introduced the place. This place wasn't here before, it's just a chain. I've been wanting to try for a long time, but I never had the time. There were too many things to do at the company, Jingy said as she introduced the place. You're the Miss of House Sun now, why are you so tired? Linny said, how's the company? Right, Wu Qintian has a company that's dying. Do you want to take it over? Everything is ready. The only thing missing is a manager. Miss, Sun Jingyi's smile was sour, and she changed the topic. Wu Qintian's company? I can give it to him, but is he willing? Him? Didn't he start that company just to put on an act in front of you? Did he want to attract your attention? Now that he's my follower, he doesn't want to do anything to you. So naturally the company is in ruins. Linny said, it's Xiao family Xiao Wangba and Xiao Wangdao. Those 2 idiots. Wu Qintian doesn't care. That's good. Sun Jingyi heard that Shantian was taken in as a follower by Lin Yi, and her eyes flashed with surprise. Right, I wanted to ask you last time, why did Shantian call you boss? Is it because you're stronger than him? No matter what, Shantian was still the young master of House Wu. Even if he was crippled, there was no need for him to call a freelancer Lenny boss, right? And it seemed that he did it before he was crippled. And the reason he was crippled was because he was protecting Lin Yi's woman? Sun Jingyi felt that this was a little suspicious. Qintian looked a little dumb, but he was an extremely arrogant person. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he wouldn't have lowered himself to be Qintian's follower, and he wouldn't have protected Lin Yi's woman at the cost of being crippled. Of course, there's another reason. I helped him. Lin, he didn't lie to Sun Jingyi. He did help Qintian level up. Although Lin, he was familiar with Sun Jingyi, he still kept his guard up. Their relationship wasn't at the point where they could talk about anything. I see. Jingyi didn't ask much, since she had something important to tell him. She didn't really care about Qintian's situation. Can you pretend to be my boyfriend again? I've been pretending, haven't I? Lin, he smiled bitterly. Then, can you come home with me? Sun Jingyi asked. What? Lin Yi's eyes widened, and he almost jumped up. Go home? With you? Chantian was crippled, and my grandpa used this reason to cancel the marriage with House Wu, but he still wanted me to marry a man from a noble house. But I told Grandpa that I already have a boyfriend, and he's also a practitioner, a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi briefly told Lin about her conversation with her grandpa. So, Grandpa wants to see you, and he wants you to be his son-in-law. Lin, he spat out a mouthful of tea. Going home with Sun Jingyi was enough of a headache for Lin Yi, and now he wanted to be his son-in-law? What the hell? Ugh, I know this is very difficult for you, but I have no other choice. I'm helpless. Anyway, it's fake. You just have to suffer a little. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi pitifully. I don't believe your expression. You're always fooling people. Lin Yi wiped his mouth and said, From the first time I saw you, you've been fooling me. All right, I'll tell you the truth. This will bring you some trouble, but I really don't have a choice. Jingyi smiled bitterly, a lonely expression on her face. I'm actually an anomaly in House Sun, an outsider. I changed my surname to Sun, but I've never truly assimilated into the Sun family. Grandpa sympathized with my background and treated me very well when I was young, but that made me a thorn in my uncle's side. The eldest son of the direct line of descent didn't get as much love from Grandpa as someone with an outsider surname like me, and so they wanted me to get married a long time ago, using me as a tool to benefit the family. Lin, he had a rough understanding of Sun Jingyi's background, and seeing her true feelings, he couldn't help but sigh. Your background is very pitiful, but you don't have to pretend in front of me, because I see you as a friend. Yeah, actually I'm not pretending. Sun Jingyi said, I'm just used to it sometimes, but I can guarantee that what I told you today is the truth, and I'm not fooling you. Then, they wanted to marry Wu Qintian? Now, they want you to marry someone else, so you use me as a shield? Lin Yi asked. That's it. Sun Jingyi nodded. Then have you ever thought that this isn't a long-term solution? What if it's exposed? I can't always be at your beck and call, right? Lin, he said, and a son-in-law. Even if it's fake, how can I bear it? Whether it's a son-in-law or not, I don't think it's important. Sun Jingyi said, as long as you can make Grandpa approve of you, it's fine. Approve of me? I'm just afraid that after he approves of me, the fake will become real. Lin Yi thought more, because now that Lin Yi was an Earth-class master, if he really showed his strength in front of Grandpa's son, then even if he didn't become a son-in-law, Grandpa's son would probably be willing. But the key problem now was that the relationship between Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi was fake. It wasn't real. You still have confidence. Sun Jingyi smiled and suddenly remembered a very important thing. Right, my grandpa's body doesn't seem to be very good. Can you help him take a look? Yes, but after seeing it, I'm afraid that he will approve of me. What about the future? Have you ever thought about it? Lin Yi asked. The future? Naturally, we'll talk about the future. If it doesn't work, then I'll just marry you. Sun Jingyi smiled. You're tricking me again, Lin Yi said. No, I mean it, Sun Jingyi said. At least, compared to those I don't know, I'm familiar with you. Marrying you is better than marrying them. Then what about Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao? Lin Yi asked. I'll be the eldest, and they'll be the second? Sun Jingyi said. No matter what, I'm the eldest miss of House Sun. I can't be the second, right? Target equals _blank. Chapter 1696. Ha ha. Lin Yi smiled. Maybe you won't say that now that you know Xiao Xiao's identity. Xiao Xiao's identity? Sun Jingyi paused. Her body is very special, and the sect master has taken a liking to her. She's going to be the next master of the Ice Palace. Lin Yi said. What? Jingyi jumped in fright. She'd heard of the Ice Palace before, and vaguely knew about the Ice Palace's trial, but that was too far away for the noble houses. The more distant it was, the more shocked she was. Feng Xiao Xiao was going to be the sect master of the ancient sect? Compared to that, her identity as the Miss of House Sun was a joke. Plus, Xiao Xiao isn't going to be the main wife. She's still the second wife. Lin Yi said, I was just joking. Sun Jingyi felt a little down, and an awkward smile appeared on her face. Plus, this news from Lin Yi was too much of a shock to her. Xiao Xiao was the future master of the Ice Palace? Keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi wanted to test Sun Jingyi's character, so he told her something that didn't seem important at the moment. Xiao Xiao's matter didn't affect Lin Yi's plan at all, and even if it got out, the Hidden House you would be even more worried. But this was something that Lin Yi didn't want to do unless he had to. After all, his own strength was the most important, and using the Ice Palace as an excuse was fine. It was fine to use it once or twice to save his life, but it wouldn't be that useful if it got out. Xiao Xiao was the future master of the Ice Palace, but that was the future. She wasn't the person right now. She was just a golden class early phase, and the future was full of variables. Who knew what it would be like? Moreover, Lin Yi was a person who didn't like to rely on others, especially a heaven stage girl. If Lin Yi always used her name to swindle people outside, then this girl would definitely laugh at him. Don't worry, I understand. I won't say it out loud. Jingyi nodded solemnly. But wouldn't it increase your reputation if I told people about this? Yeah, right? Lin Yi nodded. I don't want to rely on women. Lin Yi didn't explain too much. In fact, Lin Yi didn't mind relying on Xiao Xiao because she was Lin Yi's woman, but Rock Candy was different. Lin Yi didn't want to rely on her. Then, you've promised me? Sun Jingyi said, Grandpa said that he wanted me to bring you to participate in the aristocratic clan assembly. I was just about to talk about that. I wanted to wait until after the aristocratic clan assembly. But since you're going too, then that's perfect. Perhaps you'll see me there. Lin Yi said, I'll go with someone else to the aristocratic clan assembly as well. Someone else? Wu Chintian? Sun Jingyi asked. And Lin Yi nodded. That's fine. Then we'll meet at the aristocratic clan assembly. Sun Jingyi breathed out in relief, as if a wish had been fulfilled. But you don't have to worry too much. As long as Grandpa's illness is cured, then I'll be at ease. While I leave House Sun, there won't be too much pressure. Oh, you're planning to leave house, Sun? Lin looked at Sun Jingyi's disappointed face and couldn't help but ask. He wasn't someone who liked to meddle in other people's business, but he liked to meddle in the business of his friends. And this time, if it wasn't for Grandpa saying that his body wasn't too good recently and that he might not be able to hold on for long, I wouldn't have agreed to this. Sun Jingyi said sadly, sigh. I haven't been back to House Sun for almost 2 years. Who will be in charge of House Sun in the future? Is it your brother's son Kai, or your uncle's son? Lin suddenly asked. And Sun Jingyi paused, not knowing why Lin would ask such a question, but she still said, that's not for sure. Until now, Grandpa hasn't said anything about letting uncle or uncle take over House Sun. Then I understand, said Lin faintly. If Sun Kai takes over House Sun, will you be happier and have less pressure? And he has a good relationship with me since we were young, said Sun Jingyi. But I still want to leave House Sunday. After this matter is over, I want to go back to my hometown and see my parents' former residence. Although it's probably ruined, I still want to go and have a look. I understand. My impression of Sun Kai is also good. Lin nodded. He already had a plan in his heart. If the Sun family's old man was sensible and let Sun Kai inherit House Sun, then in this family meeting, Lin would let House Sun keep its position. As for other families that weren't close to Lin he would just let them get lost. Do you have time at that time? Can you accompany me? Sun Jingyi didn't know why she suddenly asked this question. She didn't mean anything else. She just felt a little lonely, especially when she was going far away. If there was a companion, it would be a lot more relaxing. She had almost no real friends except Lin. Let's talk about it then. Lin saw Sun Jingyi's loneliness, so he didn't directly refuse. Okay, that's a promise. You can't shirk it at that time. Sun Jingyi's eyes flashed a trace of slyness. When did I promise? Lin was stunned. Then you didn't promise? Sun Jingyi asked back. Lin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm afraid I won't have time. If I have time, I'll accompany you. Time's like it's just a squeeze. Jingyi said. Then squeeze for me? Lin's eyes unconsciously moved to Sun Jingyi's collar. I don't need a squeeze, but if you want to see, not now. I'll show you when you become an official lover. Sun Jingyi said. Then I won't look. I have a big chest at home. I can look anytime. Lin said. Pervert. Sun Jingyi said. Me? Pervert? Lin pointed at his nose, not sure if he should laugh or cry. This was the first time someone called him a pervert. He didn't seem to be very perverted. After lunch, Lin returned to House Chu's villa. While Yu Qian, Ling Shan, and Shan Tian were getting ready, he started practicing the technique Faubert gave him. At the same time, the heads of the noble houses brought their disciples to Yanjing, where House Yu was, to attend the noble house meeting. Of course, the most active was House Kong. Chapter 1697. Dr. Kong had heard about what happened between House Song and House Chun. From what he could see, House Song might not be able to do much in this noble house meeting, but House Chun would definitely be removed from the list of noble houses. And so, Dr. Kong brought Kong Guifeng to Yanjing's House Yu as soon as he could, preparing to discuss the matter of becoming a noble house with House Yu. Becoming a member of a noble house had always been Dr. Kang's dream, and this was a chance for House Kong. Dr. Kong was determined to get it. In the reception hall of House Yu, Shueixing received Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng. This isn't the first time we've met, and I know why you two are here. Shueixing looked at Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng, not beating around the bush. But if you two want to become a noble house, shouldn't you show some sincerity? That, naturally, we won't let House Yu help us for nothing. We, House Kong, will become the strongest supporter of House Yu in the future. Plus, our Dr. Kong Medical Group sales network will be given to House Yu after the agency contract expires. Kong Guifeng said. This was the chip he'd thought a long time ago, and it was the only chip House Kong could take out right now. That, isn't it a bit too little? Shueixing said. Mr. Kong, support is just empty words. As for the sales network, as far as I know, with Miracle Dr. Guan's company's competition, Your company's sales have been declining. I don't think there's much profit to be made, right? That Kong Guifeng's face reddened. Indeed, what Shueixing said was Kong Guifeng's weakness, but House Kong didn't have many chips. With Miracle Dr. Guan's company's competition, House Kong was no longer the same as before. They didn't have money, and they didn't have good products. Even if House Kong became a noble house, they wouldn't have the advantage they had at the auction. Ahem. Dr. Kong was an old fox. He coughed and lowered his voice. Since House Yu says so, then I'll give you a piece of news. But since House Kong wants to become a strong supporter of House Yu, then Mr. Yu, please don't betray us. Oh, what is it? Shueixing's interest was piqued by Dr. Kang's mysterious words. Recently, House Kong has been researching the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and I believe we'll have progress very soon. Once we succeed, then House Kang's position. I'm sure you understand. House Yu, Dr. Kong said. I can guarantee that all the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing made in the future will be given to House Yu first. What do you think of this bargaining chip, House Yu? So you're saying that it's not done yet? Shueixing was quite cool. He didn't let Dr. Kang's words get to his head. Naturally, it's not that difficult, but it takes a lot of effort. Dr. Kong didn't hide anything. House Yu, you should know that we're the ones asking you to work with us now. But once the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is made, it'll be the other noble houses that come looking for us. Shueixing wasn't an idiot. He understood what Miracle Dr. Kong was saying, but this was a gamble. House Kong was researching the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but how confident they were and whether or not they'd succeed was still unknown. Of course, Shueixing understood that House Kong was more eager to research the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing than he was, and that the news wasn't necessarily made up. House Kong was currently under the influence of Miracle Dr. Guan's company, and was in a slump. If they didn't have a hit product, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long, even if they became a noble house. This time, however, House Qin's removal from the noble house list was irreversible. Even if House Chun had a fake marriage with the ancient sect, it wouldn't stop Shueixing from making a move. Yu Feng had caused trouble this time, and House Yu would be in the wrong if they didn't get rid of him. It'd be better for them to just kill House Chun, so that they wouldn't be able to rise again. As for House Song, Shueixing would have to see Xiangwen's attitude. If he was willing to marry Ling Shan to him, then he'd pretend that nothing had happened. If not, then House Song would be in danger. As for House Wu and House Lu, while House Wu had news of Wu Qintian being crippled, and House Lu didn't have any practitioners, they were still related by marriage. Shueixing didn't want to touch them this time, in case he caused a backlash. Plus, with so many empty seats, it wouldn't be easy to replace them with other noble houses. If there were too many empty seats, the position of a noble house wouldn't be valuable anymore. Only by having 1 or 2 empty seats every time could the qualified houses fight for it, and it would also highlight the importance of House Yu. Looking at the current situation, House Kong seemed to be a suitable candidate, and they'd even made a friendly gesture. After a moment of contemplation, Shueixing nodded. All right, then I'll help House Kong become a noble house this time. But I'll have to warn you up front. If you don't have a worthy product for a long time, then House Kang's future will be a bit worrying. We understand that, of course. Dr. Kong nodded. We'll do our best. All right, the noble house meeting. You guys come as well, and cooperate with me when necessary. I'll remove House Chun from the noble house list and let you replace them. Shueixing said. All right, I understand. Don't worry, House Yu. We'll follow your footsteps. Kong Guifeng said quickly. All right, see you then. Shueixing said as he picked up his teacup. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng, on the other hand, weren't blind people. They knew that Shueixing was sending them off, and quickly stood up. Then we won't disturb you any further, House Yu. We'll be on time for the noble house meeting. And Lil Feng, send House Kong off for me. Shueixing said to Yu Feng, who was standing behind him. Elder Kong, Mr. Kong, please. Yu Feng said politely to Dr. Kong, but his mind was on Ling Shan. He didn't know if Elder Song Xiangwen had made a decision yet. Yu Feng was like that. The more he couldn't get his hands on something, the more he wanted to get his hands on her. It wasn't that Ling Shan was the most beautiful person in the noble houses. There were girls with similar looks and backgrounds as her, such as House Lu's Lu Jinghan and House Sun's Sun Jingyi. Of course, there were a few girls who weren't as pretty, but were still from noble houses. But after seeing Ling Shan, Yu Feng felt a sense of conquering. The more she refused, the more he wanted to get his hands on her. Chapter 1698. Yu Feng, as the son of House Yu, the oldest of the noble houses, had a sense of superiority in his heart. He'd seen all kinds of women, and there were plenty who threw themselves at him, but none like Ling Shan, who didn't care at all. Yu Feng didn't believe that he couldn't deal with Ling Shan. Yu Feng only hurried back to the guest room after sending the two to the door of House Yu. "They're gone," Shuixing asked. "Yeah, they're gone. I told Yu Haitian to send someone to follow them and see what they've been up to these 2 days." Yu Feng said. Shuixing nodded. He'd already agreed to let House Kong become a noble house, but he still wasn't at ease with House Kong. As a result, he told Yu Feng to send someone to follow Dr. Kong and Kong Gui Feng to see if they were playing any tricks. After leaving House Yu, Miracle Dr. Kong said to Gui Feng impatiently, "Gui Feng, you need to give Xiaoming a call and tell him to get the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing recipe from Miracle Dr. Wan's company as soon as possible. We don't have much time left, and although the promotion to a noble house went rather smoothly, House Yu won't let a powerless house like us take the position of a noble house forever." "Yes, father, I'll call Xiaoming right now." Kong Gui Feng wasn't feeling too good either. Recently, Dr. Kong seemed to have taken a liking to Kong Mingming. If Kong Mingming really got the recipe, then Kong Ming would definitely become the next head of House Kong, and his son Xiaolong would be in danger. But Kong Gui Feng didn't have a choice. Becoming a noble house had to be stronger than the current House Kong. Even if Xiaolong couldn't become the head of the house, his position would be much better than it was now. This was the benefit of being a noble house. Dr. Kong and Kong Gui Feng weren't there, and their conversation was heard by Yu Haitian's men. House Yu only had Shuixing and Yu Feng left, along with the half-dead Yu Kuan. House Yu still had a few others, and while they weren't strong, they were more than enough to follow House Kong. And so, at the same time, the conversation between the father and son was heard by Shuixing as well. "It seems like they're after the recipe," Shuixing said, "but no matter what, as long as they get the recipe, it's fine. As for where they get it from, it has nothing to do with us." "Father, about House Song Lingshan," Yu Feng asked, unwilling to give up. "I've already pressured that old thing, Song Xiangwen. I'll bring it up again during the meeting, and if that old thing doesn't know what's good for him, then we'll just kick him out." Shuixing was pissed at the mention of Xiangwen. He'd agreed to it, and now something happened to his granddaughter. Shuixing felt like he'd lost a lot of face. "Thank you, father." Yu Feng was overjoyed. The meeting of the noble houses, while some were happy and some were sad, was still held as promised. The so-called noble house meeting wasn't a big one. Only the heads of the 9 noble houses brought their younger generation to the meeting room of House Yu's auction house. Of course, other than the 9 noble houses, there was another house, House Kong. Other people were surprised, but when the old man of the Chun family and the old man of the Song family saw this situation, their hearts thumped. The hint was self-evident. The Kong family could participate in this meeting of the aristocratic families, which meant that the Kong family was likely to become a member of the aristocratic families. If the total number of noble houses increased by 1, then it'd be fine, but if it didn't change, then one of the noble houses would have to be purged. According to the agreement between the noble houses, it was better to have none than to have substandard members. So, those who didn't have the qualifications would definitely be purged from the noble house list. Sitting at the head of the meeting room was Yu Shuixing, and behind him was Yu Feng. As the leader of the noble house meeting, it was normal for House Yu to sit at the head of the table. The younger generation was only here to gain experience, so naturally, they wouldn't sit down. House Lu's old man Lu Zhenhu, House Wu's old man Wu Gonggao, House Yang's old man Yang Daocha, House Song's old man Song Xiangwen, House Sun's old man Chen Quanglan, House N's old man Mingyue, House Xiao's current head Xiao Ji, and standing behind him was his brother Xiao Bin. They didn't bring Xiao Wangba and Xiao Wangdao. The only ones who stood out were House Kang's Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng. They were sitting at the end, but the rankings would probably be rearranged after the meeting. Everyone's here. We're all old acquaintances, so I won't say much. Shueishing made a gesture for silence, speaking slowly. The Noble House meeting is a rule that has been in place for many years, and I'm sure you all understand that the first part of the meeting is to rank the nobles and the nobles. This is a rule that hasn't changed since time immemorial, and the ranking of the noble houses is based on their wealth and the strength of their members, as well as the background of the noble houses. Everyone knew this rule, but the ranking was usually made up of the 4 strongest noble houses and the 5 weaker ones. This was the so-called 4 big noble houses and 5 small noble houses, but there was no specific ranking. Of course, House Yu, who was the strongest overall, was still the leader. The first part was enough to make Elder Chun Kuanglan feel sorrowful. House Chun had a huge advantage in this meeting, with Chun Yutian becoming a mystic early phase. Add that marriage with House Chun, and there shouldn't be a problem for them to be in the 4 big noble houses. But because of Chun Yutian's meddling, he was beaten into a cripple. House Chun was done for this time, and they probably wouldn't even have a place in the 5 small noble houses. The second part is to clean up the grudges. If you have any conflicts, you can speak up, and I and the others will help you mediate. If you can't, then we'll use the old rule force. Of course, if you give up the right to pursue the matter, then you can't use the old grudges to talk about it anymore. This has always been the rule of us, noble houses. Everyone's goal is to earn more money and more time. If we always waste our time and energy on grudges, I'm afraid no one wants to see that. Yu Shueishing continued, glancing at Elder Chen Kuanglan as he spoke. Chapter 1699. Everyone nodded after hearing Shueishing's words. Only House Chin's Chun Kuanglan and House Song's Song Xiangwen felt sorrow. It seemed like House Yu was going to use them as an example. The other houses, on the other hand, didn't have much of a grudge against each other. They were all noble houses, after all, and they all gave each other some face. Plus, there were marriages within the houses, so there wasn't much conflict. They all put on innocent and kind expressions. Only Jiang Wen stood behind his father and Minghue, squinting his eyes at everyone like a wolf looking for its prey. Housen wasn't weak. They didn't have any practitioners, but they had a lot of money, and they had the support of the Firewolves. There was no doubt that they'd be able to maintain their position as one of the 5 small noble houses. But Jiang Wen didn't seem to care about all this. In his eyes, these noble houses were all his targets, fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Jiang Wen's ambition had grown to the extreme, and with the professor's support, he didn't care about the normal noble houses anymore. Of course, even House Yu didn't know that the Firewolf Gang was just a cover. Behind the Firewolf Gang, there was a huge backer. The professor was here to help Jiang Wen earn money, but in reality, some of the results of his research were for the backer behind the Firewolf Gang. As for the money he earned, the backer didn't really care about it, so he left it for the Firewolf Gang to develop themselves. Jiang Wen himself wasn't too clear on this, but he knew one thing. Once the professor could create a medicine that could maintain the mystic class for a long time, he'd be able to make his move on the noble houses. Regrettably, though, that medicine couldn't be given to him, or he'd get a taste of what it felt like to be a master. The third round is the sparring between the younger generation. House Yu, on the other hand, has prepared some medicine for the winner of this sparring competition, a small chi gathering pill from the hidden House Yu. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's a great medicine for increasing strength. Shueishing said. Wad to Ash, everyone revealed looks of envy and greed when they heard that the prize was a lesser chi gathering pill, but they all knew that House Yu's Yufeng was the strongest amongst the younger generation, and no one else could fight him. So, rather than saying that this prize was a prize, it was more accurate to say that House Yu took it out to show off. After all, in a sparring match, Yufeng would be the winner no matter what, and this pill was still his. Therefore, After the surprise and envy, everyone calmed down. They didn't need to think too much about things that didn't belong to them. How could something in House U's hands be so easily obtained? Since no one has any questions, let's move on to the first part. Each house, report your income from last year, as well as the strength of your practitioners. Do you have any backers? Shueishing said. House Yu, I don't need to talk about it. Just the income from this auction house alone is enough to cover the income of a few of your families. As for our strength, there's no need to talk about it. I'm a mystic late phase peak. Yufeng was at the middle phase of the mystic class, and our House Yu's backing is the hidden House Yu. Shueishing said that there was no need to talk about it, but he still gave a detailed description of House Yu's strength. Indeed, House Yu's strength was the strongest amongst all the noble houses. Our Shao family didn't have much income last year, but we've received a few big deals recently. Next year, we'll probably get a few billion, of course, including our fixed assets. Xiao Ji said proudly. Our Shao family doesn't have any practitioners at the moment, but our backer, the Hidden House Pai, has said that he'll guide my son and nephew in training. The Shao family situation made everyone gasp. They were a family that didn't receive much attention at the auction, and now they become famous all of a sudden. It seemed that having the support of a hidden house was indeed different. It wouldn't be long before Shao family would be on the same level as House Yu. Other than House Yu, the Shao family had the biggest backing, so it was normal for Shao family to speak up first. Of course, the firewolves behind House and weren't weak either, but Mingyue was a low-profile person, especially since he and the firewolves were involved in some illegal dealings. It was best not to speak too much. Our House Lu's fixed assets increased by around 3 billion last year. As for practitioners, we don't have any yet, Zhenu said. With House Lu's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for them to keep their position, but they'd definitely become one of the 5 small noble houses. I'm a mystic middle phase, and while our House Wu's business isn't that big, we still have a few billion worth of assets. Gong Gao felt sorrowful as well. If Chun Tian hadn't died, House Wu would definitely be second only to the Shao family. But now, it was hard to say whether or not they could enter the ranks of the 4 big noble houses. House Yu's position as one of the 4 big noble houses was already set in stone, and Shao family had the intention of catching up to them. They'd definitely become one of the 4 big noble houses. As for House Sun, while they were a healer family, their position was special. As long as Elder Sun was still alive, House Sun would definitely be one of the 4 big noble houses. As for the last spot, Gong Gao felt that he might not be able to fight for it. House Sun wasn't weak, either. Not only did they have the support of the Firewolves, but they were also very rich. Before, House Sun didn't have much money, but with the support of the Firewolves, they became the leader of the 5 small noble houses. Now, they'd probably enter the ranks of the 4 big noble houses. Of course, taking a step back, even if House Sun gave up on this position, if House Song agreed to the marriage with House Yu, then House Yu would definitely give House Song a spot as one of the 4 great houses. This way, House Yu would have no hope at all. One had to know that although the 4 great aristocratic families and the 5 small aristocratic families were all aristocratic families, there was a huge difference in their levels. The Wu family was definitely not as glorious as before. After that, the other houses reported their strength as well. When it was Elder Qin's turn, Chun Quanglon thought of her injured grandson, Chen Yuqian, and her heart ached. She sighed helplessly. House Qin doesn't have any properties. Chen Yuqian used to be a mystic early phase, but he was crippled. Now, he only has the support of an ancient sect. Ancient sect? Which ancient sect? Dr. Kong spoke up before Shueishing and the others could speak. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qi Dian and recommend it. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 1700. Chen Quanglon frowned. He knew that House Kong was up to no good. It seemed like they'd planned this from the start. The ancient sect's engagement was a top secret, and Chen Quanglon couldn't just say which sect it was. The ancient sect didn't allow him to say it, either. Plus, it had been so long, and there was no news at all. This was basically a lost cause, and Chun Kuanglan didn't expect this to be a bargaining chip for House Chun. He'd lost all hope before coming here, so he wasn't surprised at all. He looked at Dr. Kong. You can pretend it's nothing. House Chun has no money, no background, and no practitioners. House head you. How can a house like this become a noble house? Isn't that a little weird? Miracle Dr. Kong asked, a little surprised. Chino pop-up window, and we're just calculating the strength of each house. We'll talk about other things later. Shueishing nodded, but the meaning behind his words was clear to everyone. Now, it's time for everyone to settle their grudges. Do you guys have any grudges? Can you bring them up? What grudges did these people have? So when Shueishing asked the question, everyone's eyes focused on Elder Chun Kuanglan. What happened these days wasn't a secret. Everyone knew what happened between House Yu and House Chun. In fact, House Chun could be considered the victim, but there was nothing they could do. Whoever was stronger was in the right. House Yu was clearly bullying House Chun, and House Chun couldn't do anything about it. Since no one's talking, then we'll start with House Yu. Shueishing turned to Chun Kuanglan faintly. Elder Chun, your Chun Yutian is meddling in my son and his girlfriend's business for no reason at all. What's going on? There's always a reason to frame someone. Chun Kuanglan was going all out. There was no chance for him to turn the situation around anymore, but he had to make things clear before leaving the noble house meeting. Right? He was weak, and House Chun had no money, no practitioners, and no back. He could give up on the title of a noble house, but he couldn't allow himself to be wronged. And so Chun Kuanglan had to make things clear. Lingshan isn't your son's girlfriend, is she? This was something Lingshan had never admitted to. How is this interfering? Plus, there's nothing between my grandson and Lingshan. There's nothing between them. Your son hurt my grandson for no reason at all. Shouldn't you give us an explanation for this, House Yu? Give you an explanation? Old thing, have you gone senile? Shueishing didn't say anything, but Dr. Kong spoke up first, pointing at Chun Kuanglan. Even I, who's not from noble house, have heard of Yu Feng and Lingshan's marriage. How could you not have? Are you bullshitting me? Dr. Kang's words made Chun Kuanglan's veins bulge. This Dr. Kong and Shueishing were working together, obviously trying to cause trouble for her. Patriarch Chun, how do you explain this? Let's talk about the facts. It's true that your Chun Yutian interfered and caused a rift between my son and Lingshan. You have to give us an explanation for this, don't you? Shueishing thought that this Dr. Kong wasn't a bad person, after all. He knew how to play along and let House Chun take a bite out of him. I give you an explanation? Chun Kuanglan clenched her fists and glared at Shueishing, her heart filled with sorrow. She was the victim here, but it was like House Yu was the one who'd suffered a huge loss. What? Elder Chun doesn't want to follow the rules of noble house. Shueishing asked faintly. Patriarch Chun, in order to regain my face, I'm prepared to challenge your Chun Yutian. Of course, anyone from House Chun can take his place. Elder Chun, you could do it yourself, too. I won't say that you're bullying the weak. Huh? Yu Feng followed Shueishing's words with a smile. You dash. Chun Kuanglan's heart was filled with humiliation. She stood up abruptly, her eyes red as she glared at Shueishing and Yu Feng. House Yu, don't go too far. Aren't you ashamed to act like a victim? Do you think I don't know what you're trying to achieve? Elder Chun, what do you mean by this? Everything is being done according to the rules of a noble house. If you think that we're bullying you, then you can bring it up and challenge us. Shueishing said faintly. Challenge me or challenge Yu Feng, it's all fine. You? Chun Kuanglan clutched his chest, almost coughing up blood. House Chun didn't have any practitioners, so how could they be a match for House Yu? Wasn't challenging them the same as committing suicide? Chun Kuanglan was prepared to be kicked out of the noble house ranks, but he couldn't keep his cool after being humiliated like this by House Yu. House Yu had gone too far, acting like a victim when they got the advantage. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want me to leave the noble house ranks, right? I'll leave. You don't have to say so much. This was supposed to be a meeting of 9 noble houses, and now there's a House Kong. Shueishing, you think I don't know what you're planning? Do you think I don't know what you're trying to do with me? I'll be leaving the noble house myself this time. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Chun Kuanglan smiled bitterly as he looked around at everyone. No one was speaking up for him. Everyone knew that House Yu was twisting the facts, but who would dare speak up for House Chun? Chun Kuanglan's gaze finally landed on Song Xiangwen. Yu Qian was injured because of Ling Shan, and if Xiangwen didn't speak up now, it'd be too much. But Xiangwen couldn't even protect himself right now, and as apologetic as he was, he didn't dare speak up. Old friend, don't get too worked up. Let's sit down and talk. Yeah, could it be that old man Shin thinks that by withdrawing from the ranks of the aristocratic families, everything will be fine? Shueishing followed up. Before you leave the noble house ranks, you need to give me an explanation, right? You dashed. Chun Kuanglan was shaking with rage. He never would have thought that Shueishing would be this shameless. He'd already made such a huge concession, but Shueishing was still pushing it. This made Elder Chin's chest heave up and down. Even his breathing was uneven. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 17:01. Kuanglan let out a long breath and pointed at Shueishing, raging, Shueishing, don't go too far. I've already left the noble house list. What else do you want from me? Do you want me to give up my life here as an apology? That's right, House Head Yu. Elder Chun is an old acquaintance of ours. Let's just let this go and let him leave peacefully. Elder Song Xiangwen couldn't help but speak up. No pop-up window chi. House Head Song. We're talking about the grudge between House Yu and House Chun. We haven't even settled our score yet, and you still want to stand up for someone else? Shueishing looked at Xiangwen, his voice dark. Your House Song broke the engagement. Don't you want to give us an explanation? Xiangwen didn't think that his words for House Chun would cause Shueishing to point the spear at him. He could only look at Kuanglan apologetically, avoiding eye contact. House Song can't say that we broke the engagement, but the two kids don't seem to be getting along very well. I only said that they'd get along for a while. I didn't say that they had to be together. Let's not talk about you for now. We'll talk about House Chun later. Shueishing's words extinguished Xiangwen's fire. He turned back to Kuanglan. You're leaving the noble house list, that's for sure, but it doesn't mean that it'll be fine. House Yu's reputation has been damaged. You should at least show some sincerity to compensate us, right? House Yu, aren't you being a little unreasonable here? House Yu is the head of the noble houses, and we should be a role model. You should be more generous. Don't you think it's a little inappropriate for you to push an old man like this? It was Sun Yikai who spoke up. He was a straightforward person, always wanted to stick his nose into things that were unfair. He knew that it wasn't his place to speak, but he couldn't help but speak up anyway. Househead son, it seems that your upbringing isn't that great. Didn't you tell him about the rules of the noble house meeting? The young ones are only here to learn. They don't have the right to speak. Shueishing looked at Ikai darkly as he spoke to Elder Sunday Ahem. Ikai, don't talk nonsense. Old Man Sun looked at his grandson awkwardly. He also knew his grandson's character. He was the kind of chivalrous person who would stand up for injustice. However, on this occasion, with the Sun family's identity, it was impossible for them to speak up for the Chun family. Grandpa, I'm not spouting nonsense. I'm just stating a fact. Justice is in everyone's heart. Now everyone can see that the Chun family has fallen. Just let them withdraw quietly. Why we have to make things difficult for them? Son Ikai was stubborn. He raised his head and said stubbornly, Is everyone mute? Your silence today may bring about the same outcome as the Chun family tomorrow. Who can guarantee that their family will not decline like the Chun family in the future? Sun Ikai's words were right in the hearts of all the aristocratic families. Sun Ikai was right. This time it was the Chun family. Next time it might be their family. This was especially true for the weaker families, such as the current Liu family. Sun Ikai, do you have the right to speak here? The juniors should have the rules of the juniors. Could it be that House Sun thinks that you're strong enough, stronger than House Yu, that you can replace House Yu? Chunyi spoke up at this moment. He was speaking for House Yu. After all, House Wu and House Sun were no longer connected by marriage. He wasn't afraid of offending House Sunday. Instead, saying something like that would please House Yu, so why not? However, He didn't think that his words would backfire on him. He said that House Yu was strong. Didn't that mean that House Yu was bullying others? If House Sun was stronger than House Yu, then wouldn't House Yu be in the wrong? And so, this flattery really pissed Shueising off. He was pushing them step by step, but he was just pointing at them and saying that he was in the right. Now that Chengdi said it, it sounded like he was bullying others. Headwu, you should take care of your grandson. It's not good to stick your nose in other people's business. Wu Chentian was crippled because of it. Don't let your grandson become crippled as well. Shueising warned faintly. Gong Gao was a smart man, and he felt that Chengdi's words weren't very appropriate. Weren't you saying that House Yu was bullying others? How could they be happy? The noble houses had to at least keep up appearances, and if you continued like this, wouldn't House Yu be embarrassed? But Shueising's words hit Gong Gao's sore spot. Chen Tian was his favorite, and he was being used as a scapegoat. Gong Gao was furious. Headyu, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with my grandson? He's just a little injured, he's not crippled. Is he? Is this a curse? Crippled or not, you know it yourself. Shueising wasn't afraid of Gong Gao. What, Headwu, you not happy? Then in the third segment, you can let your grandson Qintian come up and spar with him. If he defeats my son Yufeng, then facts will speak louder than words. Gong Gao's weakness was hit, but he couldn't rebuke. If he agreed, wouldn't that be sending Qintian to his death? Even Qintian wasn't a match for Yufeng. They were a whole level apart, and so Gong Gao could only keep his head down and keep quiet, sulking. All right, Househead Chun, look, no one's standing up for you now, and they all think that you should show some sincerity and compensation. Shueising turned his attention back to Quanlan after dealing with the crowd. What sincerity? What compensation? Quanlan suppressed her anger and asked, her hand on her chest. I won't ask for much. Your House Chin's villa in Yanjing, give it to us. From now on, House Chun will move out of Yanjing, and don't let me see you again. Shueising said coldly. Otherwise, don't blame me for remembering what happened back then. You, Quanlan almost fainted from the anger. House Chun had lived in this villa for so many years, and now he was telling him to give it up and leave Yanjing, never to appear in front of House Yu again? Me what? If it weren't for the fact that House Chun doesn't have that much money, I wouldn't have taken out $1 billion or so. Do you think this will be settled so easily? Shueising said faintly. Shueising, I don't know if you've heard of this saying, the river flows 30 years east and 30 years west. Prosperity and decline are ever-changing. Chen Quanlan was so angry that he calmed down. He pointed at Yu Shueising and said word by word, Yu Shueising, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too ruthless. Your House Yu will meet its end sooner or later. Chapter 1702. 30 years? Ha ha ha. Old thing. It's a question if you'll even live past 30 years. Shueising laughed heartily, not taking Quanlan's words seriously at all. All right, I'll wait and see if this day will come for House Yu. No need to wait. 30 years is too long. The door of the conference room was kicked open, and a voice as cold as hell rang in everyone's ears. Although it was low, it was mixed with thick, true energy, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz, giving them a kind of deafening feeling. The door of the meeting room turned into a pile of wood shavings. Not a single piece was intact. Everyone in the meeting room jumped in fright. They never thought that someone would dare come at a time like this. One had to know that the Noble House meeting was a meeting of the strongest practitioners in the common world. The wood shavings slowly dispersed, and 5 people appeared in front of the meeting room. Lin, he stood in the middle. He was the one who broke the meeting room's door, and he was the one who said those words. There were 4 people behind him. 2 were standing, and 2 were sitting. Yu Shu and Ling Shan were standing, and Yu Qian and Wu Qintian were sitting. Yu Qian and Qintian were in wheelchairs, pushed by Yu Shu and Ling Shan as they followed Lin Yi into the meeting room. Lin Yi. Shueising couldn't be more familiar with this Lin Yi person. The first time he met him was when he was with Xu Amin, and Shueising didn't pay much attention to him back then. But after a series of events, Lin Yi became House Yu's mortal enemy. Didn't you want to see if this day would come for House You? Then you don't have to wait. You'll see it now. Lin Yi looked around the room, his eyes landing on Sun Yikai and Sun Jingyi. He smiled and nodded at them before turning to Jinhu. Chino pop-up window in the conference room. There were only a few acquaintances. Lin Yi didn't have any personal relationships with the others, so he naturally wouldn't greet them. When Sun Jingyi first arrived at the conference room, she was wondering why Lin Yi wasn't here. Wasn't he here with Qintian? But all he saw was Gong Gao and Qindi, not Qintian and Lin Yi. At this time, the aristocratic family's meeting had already begun, so she had no way to call Lin Yi again. After that, House Yu attacked House Chun right away, giving him no chance to talk to his grandpa. He didn't think that Lin Yi would show up at the noble house meeting like this. Is he here to participate in the aristocratic family gathering? This was practically a show of force. Lin Yi, I didn't even have the time to find trouble with you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Do you really think that we, the common world House Yu, can't do anything to you? Shueishing looked at Lin Yi, his eyes filled with rage. What a joke. I thought you brought some helpers, but you brought 2 handicaps, a normal person, and a mystic early phase Lingshan. How childish. Yu Feng's strength wasn't as high as Lin Yi's, and it was because of Yu Feng that Lin Yi got into trouble, so he told Yu Feng to retreat first. He himself was busy with the noble house meeting, so he didn't have the time to look for trouble with Lin Yi. But this Lin Yi came knocking on his door. Did he really think that he was invincible as a mystic mid-phase peak? Shield bro, how did this guy become the head of House Yu? Why is he so similar to us? We're here to cause trouble, and he's not afraid at all. So what if my brother is handicapped? He can still take revenge. Yushu closed her mouth subconsciously after saying the word. She only breathed out in relief after realizing that Meng Yao wasn't there. Otherwise, she'd tell Yushu not to curse, or she'd tear her mouth apart. I don't know, but there's only 2 normal people left in their house. That Xie Yufeng is even more of a weakling, and he's standing out. Lin Yi said. Oh, I see. Yushu nodded. Prophet Shu, your House Yu is done for. The sudden appearance of Lin Yi's group stunned everyone in the meeting room. They didn't know what was going on, especially Elder Chen Kuanglan. He didn't understand. Why would the granddaughter bring her grandson here? Wasn't this just looking to die? Old Song Xiang Wen, on the other hand, was a little pissed off as well. It was fine that Ling Shan didn't want to marry Yu Feng, but now she was messing around with House Yu's enemies. What was House Song going to do now? Elder Wu Gonggao, on the other hand, didn't understand the situation. Qin Tian said that he had Lin Yi as his boss, and now Lin Yi brought 2 handicapped people to cause trouble? What was going on? Grandpa, hurry up and announce that we're not related to Qin Tian anymore. Isn't he harming us? Qindi lowered his voice and said to Gonggao. Gonggao looked at Qindi coldly and didn't say anything. It wasn't that he didn't understand, but he couldn't do something like that. Qin Tian was his grandson. Grandpa, I'm sorry for making you worry, but I did say that I'll be your pride. Qin Tian saw through Gonggao's confusion and comforted him. Over at House Sun, Ikai lowered his head and said to Elder Sun, Grandpa, he's my sister's boyfriend, my brother-in-law. Elder Sun thought that his ears were damaged, and he didn't hear it clearly. Ikai, what did you say? Grandpa, the boyfriend I was talking about. It's actually him. He's here. Sun Jingyi said helplessly, thinking that this Lin Yi was really something. It was fine if he didn't come, but when he did, he caused such a huge commotion. Elder Sun almost had a heart attack after hearing that. Why was Sun Jingyi's boyfriend here to cause trouble? How could this be? If House Yu found out about this, wouldn't House Sun be in trouble? Elder Sun coughed twice and was about to tell Sun Jingyi not to say anything and not to recognize him, but someone else came to recognize Lin Yi first. The talented lady of the Liu family, Liu Jinghan, had also come. Her face was covered with a veil. She did not want others to know her true appearance. She had been hiding behind the scenes of the Liu family. Even the people of the other aristocratic families did not know what Liu Jinghan looked like. However, the other aristocratic families did not care about her mystery. Even if she was as beautiful as a goddess, she wasn't a practitioner. The temptation of a beauty wasn't as strong as the strength of a practitioner. Jing Jing, what do we do? Lu Tianyi stood behind Lu Jinhu and asked Lu Jinghan in a low voice. Chapter 17:03. Something's not good. I think House Yu is done for this time. Lu Jinghan pondered for a moment and said, she was a person who was good at calculation and analysis. Based on the research and analysis she had collected on Lin Yi during this period of time, it seemed that Lin Yi would not do something so stupid as to throw away his life. There was only one possibility, and that was that Lin Yi had absolute confidence. Then House Yu would be in danger. Lu Tianyi raised his eyebrows and walked quickly towards Lin Yi. Under everyone's surprised gaze, he greeted Lin Yi enthusiastically. Miracle Dr. Lin, you're here. Why didn't you tell me in advance that I was going to pick you up? Hee, I'm here to cause a scene. If I told you, wouldn't I implicate you? Lin Yi was also a little surprised that Lu Tianyi would publicly support him at this time. One had to know that Lin Yi's current strength was far below House Yu's in everyone's eyes, but Lu Tianyi supported him so decisively. This was not an easy feat. Therefore, at this moment, the Lu family was also included in Lin Yi's scope of use. What are you talking about? What's there to implicate? You are my father's savior and our Lu family's great benefactor. Our Lu family will go through water and tread on fire to help you. Lu Tianyi said, you're not bad. Lin Yi nodded. But Mr. Lu, you should stay away for a while. You're not a cultivator, so you can't solve the problem here. Okay. Lu Tianyi nodded and dodged to the side. Lu Tianyi, how are you? As soon as Lin Yi came, you want to suck up to him. House Yu will remember this grudge. Shueixing felt like he'd lost a lot of face. Lu Tianyi was slapping him in the face. And so, Shueixing decided that once this was over, the next target would be House Lu. All right, don't write it down. I reckon that after today, you'll lose your ability to remember. Lin, he said indifferently. What do you mean? Yu Feng raged. Lin Yi, don't think I'm scared of you just because you're a level higher than me. My father is a mystic late-phase peak, one step away from the Earth class. It's not too late for you to kneel and beg for mercy. What do you mean he doesn't know? Lin Yi shrugged and turned to Yu Shu. Shu, this guy's a little dumb. Tell him what he means. Shield Bro means to tell you that after today, you're a dead man. Dead people don't have memories. Yu Shu said proudly as she looked at Lin Yi. Shield Bro, am I right? Congratulations, you're absolutely right. Lin Yi nodded. Yay! Yu Shu made a victory sign with her hand. Ha 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 ha! Yu Feng started laughing. Lin Yi, are you out of your mind? You're just a bunch of old people, and you want to challenge me? Who do you think you are? I can kill you even if I'm a cripple. Yu Qian clenched his fists and looked at Yu Feng. Yu Feng, didn't your House Yu say it? If you want to solve your grudges, you could do it with force? Very well, I'll challenge you now. Challenge me? You? Yu Feng's eyes widened as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. You're a cripple, and you want to challenge me? Shin Yu Tian, do you want to die? We don't know who's going to die yet. Yu Tian said indifferently, the humiliation from that day, I'll wash it away today. Head Shin, you see, your grandson is the one who wants to die. We didn't kill him. Yu Feng said to Kuang Lan, you know the rules of the arena. Life and death are decided by the heavens, and there's no need to pursue this matter. Kuang Lan was surprised by Yu Tian's sudden appearance, and even more so by his sudden challenge to Yu Feng. But as far as he was concerned, his grandson wasn't that impulsive, and Yu Shu was here as well. How could he just watch Yu Tian walk to his death? There had to be something he didn't know, but he still said, this is Yu Tian's decision. I support him. All right, let's go to the arena next door. Shueixing, on the other hand, wanted to see what Lin Yi was up to, but in order to prevent them from playing any tricks, he spoke up first. Shin Yu Tian, since you're the one who issued the challenge, you should go up, right? You won't find someone to replace you, will you? To be honest, Shueixing was really afraid that Yu Tian would find Lin Yi to replace him. And so, he blocked Yu Tian's escape route and continued. Don't say that Lin Yi is your sister's boyfriend, that he's part of House Qin too. No need. I'll take my revenge with my own hands. Yu Qian looked at Shueixing with disdain. All right, you're asking to die. so don't blame anyone else. Shueishing said. As long as Lin, he didn't go up, everything would be fine. Yu Qian was a cripple, and even if he wasn't in a wheelchair, he was only a mystic early phase, 2 levels lower than Yufeng. Yufeng could easily beat him up. There's no need for the arena. We can settle it here. Yu Qian said. Ha ha, do what you want, but don't say that I'm bullying you. You're just a piece of trash in my hands, and you still are. Yufeng laughed as he walked towards Yu Tian, but his laughter stopped abruptly. Because he saw Chun Yu Tian, who was sitting in the wheelchair, stand up. Yufeng's eyes widened. Wasn't Yu Tian disabled? Wasn't he in a wheelchair? How could he stand up? Yufeng pointed at Yu Tian in disbelief. Aren't you disabled? Who told you that disabled people can't recover? I just got out of the hospital, can't I? Yu Tian looked at Yufeng mockingly. Then, why are you in a wheelchair? Yufeng felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint it. After all, no matter how strong Yu Tian was, he was only a mystic early phase, and that was before he was injured. Even if Lin Yi had some miraculous medicine that could heal Yu Tian's wounds and restore his strength, he was only an early phase mystic class master. Even if he broke through during this period of time, he could only be a peak early phase mystic class master. There was still a gap between him and Lin Yi. What was there to be afraid of? However, Yufeng had an indescribable sense of foreboding. He felt that this matter was a little too strange. Oh, I was in a wheelchair every day in the hospital, so I'm used to it. Yu Qian stretched his body. Suddenly standing up makes me feel a little lightheaded, so the doctor told me to do some recovery training. But they're using you. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1704. Are you messing with me? Wow, bro, you're so pretentious, but not as good as Shield Bro, Yushu complimented. Yu Qian was about to say of course when he heard the second half of his sister's sentence. He almost fell back into the wheelchair, but thinking about it, it was normal that he wasn't as strong as Lin Yi. If he was stronger than Lin Yi, why would he call Lin Yi his boss? Chen Yu Qian said proudly, "That's right, I wanted to make some entrance music, just like in dramas. Too bad, I came in a rush and didn't have time to prepare anything." "That's right, I didn't have time." "Fuck, Chen Yu Qian, don't think that you can beat me now that you're out of the hospital. You're just an early phase mystic class. You're dreaming if you think you can beat me." Yu Qian and Yushu's words completely infuriated Yufeng. He was ignored, and this made him furious. "Who told you that I'm still an early phase mystic class?" Yu Tian asked back. "Yufeng, there's something wrong with your brain. You're not an early phase mystic class. Are you at the peak of early phase mystic class?" Yufeng froze. "No." Yu Qian shook his head. "Then you're still an early phase mystic class. Are you messing with me?" Yufeng was stunned by Yu Tian's words, and his embarrassment turned into anger. He wanted to charge at Yu Qian. "Chen Yu Qian, I think you're here to die. Phone, wait." Shueishing felt that something was wrong. Yufeng was hot-headed, but Shueishing wasn't hot-headed. He felt that something was wrong. No matter how stupid Yu Tian was, he wouldn't come here to die, would he? Could it be that this kid had some dirty tricks up his sleeve? After all, from Shueishing's perspective, it was impossible for Yu Tian to increase his strength, but he might have a trump card. Otherwise, why would he dare to provoke him like this? "What, Shueishing? Are you going back on your words and breaking the rules you set yourself? Grudges and grudges should be settled with strength?" Grandpa Chun Quanglan, saw that his grandson was full of confidence and his granddaughter was also very normal. Although he was puzzled, he understood his grandson and granddaughter better than anyone else. Chen Yutian was a little impulsive, but he wouldn't do something so stupid. Plus, he had Yushu by his side. How could Yushu let Chen Yutian die? Especially that mysterious Lin Yi. Elder Chen had heard of him a long time ago. Although he was Meng Yao and Shu's bodyguard on the surface, what he did wasn't something a bodyguard should do. Killing a master from House Yu and crippling a master from House Yu? Was this something a normal bodyguard would do? Plus, that wasn't all. Wasn't the hidden House Pai powerful? Lin Yi still got rid of one, and his follower Air Gooden got rid of two. House Pai didn't even dare to fart. Wasn't that suspicious? If this wasn't amazing, Then Jin Wudi and his disciple Ma Zhu from the Golden Bell sect were both killed by Lin Yi and Er Gooden. This was a miracle. Jin Wudi was a master of the Golden Bell shield, and even Earth-class masters had to be careful of him. Yet he was killed by Lin Yi's follower in one punch. What kind of level was this? And so Chen Quanlan thought of all these miracles, and it was as if he'd taken a stimulant. He started shaking all of a sudden, sweeping away the darkness and pressure from before. He'd thought it through. Since his grandson was so confident, he'd go crazy with him this time. House Chun was about to fall, and with Lin Yi's help, he might be able to turn the situation around. Shueishing paused at the change in Chen Quanlan's attitude, but it was fine if he didn't say it. Now that he said it, Shueishing felt more confident. He wasn't as old as Chen Quanlan, but his eyes were sharper and sharper. One look, and he saw the hidden worry and madness in Chen Quanlan's eyes. It seemed like this old thing was worried as well, and Chen Quanlan probably didn't know about what Yutian had done today. This meant that Yutian had acted on his own, or Chen Quanlan wouldn't have that expression on her face right now. Taking a step back, if House Chun had really prepared beforehand, then Chen Quanlan wouldn't have been forced to this state at the start. If that was the case, then what was there to be afraid of? Perhaps Yutian wasn't willing to give up and came to get revenge as soon as he recovered. Or maybe he learned some tricks from Lin Yi and thought he was strong enough to challenge Yufeng. From Shueishing's perspective, if Yutian really had absolute confidence, there was no way Chen Quanlan wouldn't know about it, and House Chun wouldn't be so passive this time. Of course, this was only what a normal person would think. Shueishing neglected the fact that Lin Yi had a deeper intention, and that was to destroy House Yu. Yutian's revenge on Yufeng was just a prelude, a warm-up. The real show was yet to come. But this was something Shueishing couldn't have foreseen. How could he know that Lin Yi was already Earth class? Of course not. I just have some things that I need to make clear. Shueishing said faintly as he looked at Chen Quanlan. Before the challenge, I'm sure you understand the rules of the arena, right? Life and death are up to the heavens, and no one can be held accountable. Of course. Chen Quanlan felt a little guilty after hearing Shueishing's words, but he still tried to act tough. What's there to say? We're all from noble houses. Of course we know this. Yutian knows this as well. That's good. Lil Feng, don't go easy on him. Be careful of his dirty tricks. Shueishing nodded, hinting to Yufeng. He wanted him to kill as soon as possible, so that Yutian wouldn't have a chance to make a comeback. Shueishing, on the other hand, saw the flash of worry in Chen Quanlan's eyes, and this made him feel more at ease. It seemed that Chen Quanlan didn't have confidence in Yutian, either. He was thinking too much. Shueishing thought. No problem. Shin Yutian, I didn't kill you last time, but I won't go easy on you this time. Since you're here, you should be prepared to die. With that, Yufeng's hands turned into palms, slapping towards Yutian. Lin Yi saw this move, but Lin Yi shook his head. The difference between Mystic and Earth class wasn't just a little bit. It was a dividing line, and that wasn't wrong at all. Upon reaching the Earth rank, one could learn martial techniques, and only with martial techniques could one be called a true cultivator. In the past, he'd only been a beginner. But now that Lin Yi was an Earth class master, Yufeng was nothing more than a beginner. Hashtag. Chapter 1705. Was this a dream? Yuqian's lips curled into a cold smile as he channeled his own practitioner's arts, pushing out his palms as well, wanting to use the same move to meet Yufeng's attack. Watch out, Feng! Shueishing felt Yutian's strength in that instant, and at the same time, he couldn't help but blurt out, "Careful." But it was too late. The two's palms collided in an instant, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that Yufeng was sent flying by Yutian the moment Shueishing's words left his mouth, crashing into the white wall of the meeting room. The force of the impact created a human-shaped hole in the wall, with blood stains all over it. Mystic mid-phase and Mystic late-phase peak were two completely different fighters. If they'd been fighting with techniques, Yufeng wouldn't have lost so badly, but Yufeng had chosen to fight head-on. He'd listened to Shueixing's words and wanted to kill Yutian right off the bat, but he hadn't expected the opponent's qi to be so strong that he'd been sent flying. Everyone was dumbfounded, including Chun Kuanglan and the other heads of the noble houses. They stared at Yutian in disbelief. House Chen's Yutian was a nobody at first, a small golden class early phase. It wasn't until recently that he made a name for himself, but it was an ironic one. People said that he was trying to steal Yufeng's woman right after he broke through to the early phase of mystic class, and that he was heavily injured and crippled, but no one would have thought that Yuqian would become a mystic late phase peak and appear at the noble house meeting like this. Now, even an idiot would know that Yuqian came prepared, and that he wasn't just hot-blooded. Of course, these people were just shocked and envious, but Elder Chun was shaking with excitement. He remembered what Yuqian said to him on the phone a few days ago. "Grandpa, I will be your pride." But he had done it. What did a mystic late phase peak mean to House Chun? Chun Kuanglan knew it all too well. This was a top noble house, and only house you had one. In other words, the rise of the Chun family was no longer a dream. Chun Kuanglan wanted to laugh out loud. Her name was really good. Chun Kuanglan had truly turned the tide. At the Chun family's most critical moment, her grandson had turned the tide for her and raised the Chun family's morale. Xiaofeng. Shueixing stood up abruptly, roaring in anger. "Chen Yuqian, you're a mystic late phase peak? How dare you trick me? I'm cheating?" Yuqian smiled. "What did I say that I'm not a mystic late phase peak? Did I say that? I'm just saying that I'm not at the early phase of mystic class, nor am I at the peak of the early phase. You and your son are stupid, thinking that I'm weak." Yuqian's question froze Shueixing's face. Yuqian didn't say that he wasn't a mystic late phase peak. It was a misunderstanding. But when Yu Shueixing saw Yufeng covered in blood, he had the urge to kill Chen Yutian. But now, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Shueixing really couldn't do anything to Yutian. The noble house meeting had its own rules, and if House Yu were to break the rules, how could they continue to be the leader in the future? With that thought, Shueixing decided to check on Yu Feng's injuries first, and then find a chance to wipe out House Chun. Of course, he couldn't do it now. Not only could he not do it, but he had to be generous and let House Chun continue to be a noble house. That was the only way to show House Yu's generosity and selflessness. As for taking revenge on House Chun after that, he just had to do it in secret and not let others criticize him. Shueixing humphed coldly at the thought. He stood up and walked towards Yufeng, intending to check on Yu Feng's injuries when he heard Lin Yi's faint voice. "Since House Yu said that his life and death is up to the heavens, then you can send him to hell." Lin Yi looked at Yufeng and said to Yuqian, "Because your name is Chun Yutian, that's why your life and death is up to the heavens." "Haha, Shield bro, you're so talented." Yushu was amused by Lin Yi's words. Yes, Yuqian didn't plan on letting Yufeng. If it weren't for Lin Yi's help, he would have had to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. There was no way he would let Yufeng go so easily. And so, Yuqian answered and flew towards Yufeng. Shueixing and Yuqian were both mystic masters, and both of them were at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class. Yuqian was closer to Yufeng, and so naturally, he reached Yufeng's side first. Yuqian raised his foot, stomping down on Yufeng's left leg. The crisp sound of bone breaking was especially ear-piercing in the quiet meeting room, making Shueixing's heart tremble. "Brat, don't you dare. You're looking to die. Yufeng has already lost, and you still want to kill him." But Yuqian acted as if he didn't hear Shueixing's words. He raised his foot again and stomped down on Yufeng's right leg. Another crisp crack sounded, and Yufeng's right leg broke as well. Yufeng was finally woken up by the intense pain, but it was only for a split second before he fainted again with a howl of agony. "Looks like the head of the Yu house is quite agitated. Shan, go talk to him, tell him to calm down." "Lin," he said to Ling Shan. "All right." Ling Shan didn't say anything and went to block Shueixing's path, stopping him from getting close to Yutian. At that moment, Ling Shan's mystic late phase peak was on full display, and Shueishing's steps froze. Another mystic late phase peak? Shueishing looked at Ling Shan in disbelief. He never would have thought that mystic late phase peak would become so worthless all of a sudden. These kids from noble houses who didn't show their strength before were all mystic late phase peak now. At that moment, Xiangwen's face turned red with excitement as well. House Qin's Yutian had become a mystic late phase peak, and all he could do was envy and jealousy. But this time, if House Chun was lucky enough to survive this, then the next unlucky ones would be House Song. He didn't think that his granddaughter would become a mystic late phase peak as well. This was too shocking. His granddaughter had just broken through to mystic early phase not too long ago, and now she was a mystic late phase peak now? This span and this leveling speed gave Song Xiangwen a surreal feeling. Was he dreaming? Hashtag target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1706. Chapter 1707. Another Earth class, however. What happened next proved to Song Xiangwen that he was not dreaming. Head you, you're the one who said that life and death is up to the heavens. Please don't break the rules of the noble house meeting. Ling Shan hated Yu Feng to the bone, and naturally wouldn't let Shueishing interfere. Song girl, do you really think that just because you're a mystic late phase peak like me, you're on the same level as me? Shueishing smiled coldly as he looked at Ling Shan. I can tell just by looking at your skills. You've only just reached mystic late phase peak and haven't stabilized it yet. It'll be too easy for me to beat you. However, as Yu Shueishing spoke, Yu Tian broke Yu Feng's left arm with a stomp. Shueishing's heart clenched as he threatened again. Don't force me to break a flower. Wu Qintian. Lin could tell that Ling Shan wasn't a match for Shueishing alone. After all, Shueishing was a mystic late phase peak, and he'd stabilized his strength a long time ago. Ling Shan, on the other hand, lacked battle experience. She might really be at a disadvantage here. And so, Lin decided to let Chun Tian handle Shueishing. Go help him. Yes. Chun Tian stood up from the wheelchair with a whoosh, his whole body displaying the strength of a mystic late phase peak and a physical practitioner. One mystic late phase peak is enough. Would another mystic late phase peak be enough? Chun Tian's strength shocked everyone once more. The first two mystic late phase peak masters were already hard to accept, but Chun Tian was a dual practitioner, a mystic late phase peak. This made everyone feel like their heads were about to explode. Huh. Gong Gao stood up abruptly. I knew it. Chun Tian wouldn't disappoint me. Ha. He's a mystic late phase peak and a physical practitioner now. House will have nothing to worry about now. Truth be told, Shueishing was confident in taking on a newbie like Ling Shan, but two mystic late phase peak? That wasn't something he could handle, let alone one who was a practitioner of both body and spirit. Ling Shan and Qin Tian stood beside Shueishing, one on the left and one on the right. They'd attack him if he made any sudden movements. Crack! Yu Feng's right arm was broken by Yu Tian as well. This made Shueishing's mouth twitch a little, but there was nothing he could do. Yu Tian and three mystic late phase peak masters. How could he fight them? Unless Qin Yu Tian didn't stop after breaking Yu Feng's limbs. He kicked Yu Feng out of the meeting room's window with a whoosh. This was the highest floor of House Yu's auction house. Yu Feng flew out of the window, and if he landed on the ground, he'd definitely be smashed into meat paste. It wouldn't be a problem if he was conscious, but he was unconscious right now, and he'd probably die if he fell. Lin Feng. Shueishing didn't expect Yu Tian to be this ruthless, kicking Yu Feng out of the window. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Shueishing saw Yu Tian abuse Yu Feng, and he thought that the guy was just venting his anger, not taking his life. After all, if he wanted to kill Yu Feng, all he had to do was stomp on his head. Shueishing was angry, but he wasn't too worried. At least Yu Feng's life wasn't in danger, and as long as he was alive, he'd have his revenge one day. He didn't expect Yu Tian to do this all of a sudden. What he didn't know was that Yu Tian was giving Yu Feng a taste of his own medicine. Yu had been kicked out of the window like this back then, just that it wasn't this high. Wah! You're looking to die, brat. Shueising was completely furious. He didn't expect Yu to be so ruthless. But he didn't know that he wanted Yu Feng to kill him back then, didn't he? Shueising's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the broken window. He knew that his son wasn't going to make it out of this alive. Falling from such a high place, without any qi to protect him, he'd die for sure. Shueising took a deep breath and quickly took out a pill from his pocket, throwing it into his mouth. In an instant, the qi around Shueising's body exploded, and he went from Mystic Late Phase, Peak, to Earth Class Early Phase. What? Earth Class Early Phase? Chen Quanlan, Xiangwen, and Gong Gao were all taken aback. They'd never seen something as strange as this before. With just one pill, Shueising went from Mystic Late Phase, Peak, to Earth Class Early Phase in one go. Ha ha ha. We didn't expect this, did you? Since you've killed my son, then none of the families that participated in this shall leave this place alive. Shueising seemed to have gone mad as he laughed at the sky. House Chun, House Song, House Wu, House Liu, you shall all die with my son. This was Shueising's trump card, as well as his ultimate weapon. This was a pill that could instantly increase one's strength and potential, but it was an evil pill that came at the cost of one's lifespan. This pill was made by the Everyday and Everyday sect, and Yu Shueising had gotten it from the Hidden House Yu. No one in the Hidden House Yu would use a pill like this that would damage their strength, so giving one to Yu Shueising wasn't a big deal. After all, this pill had side effects. A normal person could instantly become a golden class after using it, and a golden class could become a mystic after using it, and so on and so forth. But the price was huge. A normal person had to pay 5 years of lifespan to become a golden class, and a golden class had to pay 10 years to become a mystic. A mystic, on the other hand, had to pay 30 years of lifespan, as long as they didn't step into sky class. A practitioner's lifespan was the same as a normal person's. They might live a little longer than a normal person, but not by much. As a result, 30 years of lifespan was fatal. How many years did a person have in their life? One pill reduced 30 years of lifespan, and how many 30 years could a person have? And because of the exhaustion, a normal person would be fine, but a practitioner would drop from Mystic to Golden Class after the effect wore off. Depending on how much energy was used up, the practitioner would drop from Mystic to Golden Class Early Phase. How could someone from the Hidden House use such a huge side effect? Hashtag target equals _ blank. Chapter 1707. Shueising, on the other hand, was extremely grateful to Shueising, treating it like a treasure. Li Yi, now that his third brother was dead, his nephew crippled, and his son dead, what was the point of living anymore? Under the impulse of hatred, he was willing to lose 30 years of his life to consume the pill. An Earth class. He's an Earth class. Qin Quanlan was the most worried of all. Shueising's first target was Yu Qian, and so she made a quick decision. Yu Qian, run. Run? Where to? Not a single one of you can run. Shueising smiled coldly. You want to run in front of an Earth class? Qin Yu Qian, I'll bury you with foam. First. Earth class, what's so great about that? Plus, you're a fake Earth class, using pills to level up. Lin Yi, who'd been standing at the door, finally moved, walking towards Shueising as he spoke. The others didn't know what was going on, but Lin Yi wasn't a stranger to Shueising's sudden increase in strength. Heibao had gone through something similar, and it seemed that Shueising had used a similar method. Lin Yi, even if you're a Mystic Late Phase Peak, you 4 Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters are no match for me. Shueising was evidently more reckless than Boss Yu, and he was more willing to risk his life than Boss Yu. Boss Yu was scared like a mouse when he faced Lin Yi, a Mystic Mid-Phase Peak, but this Shueising wasn't afraid of 4 Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters at all. But the Dragon's 9 sons were all different. Even if Boss Yu and Shueising were from the same family, their personalities were completely different. Of course, if Shueising were to fight Lin Yi and the other Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters with his Earth-class strength, he'd have a good chance of winning. Of course, the premise was that he didn't have a trump card like the energy bomb. If he did, then even an Earth class would die easily. Holy Hall, what if I'm not? He asked. No, you're even more hopeless. It looks like you're the mastermind behind all of this. I'll start with you then, Shueishing said as he flew towards Lin. Wait a minute. Before we start fighting, I want to ask you something, He said. Haha, if you have any last words, you can leave them here. But I can't promise that everyone here will help you, because everyone related to you will die today. Shueishing laughed proudly. Holy Church, I'd like to ask, has your house you ever been a bodyguard for an international drug gang? He stared at Shueishing as he pressed. Shueishing paused after hearing Lin Yi's words. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask this question. He thought that Lin Yi wanted to say something harsh or something. Answer me, did you? Lin Yi asked. How is this possible? Our house you is a legitimate business. Why would we be a bodyguard for some drug gang? Shueishing denied flatly, but his eyes flashed with shock and suspicion. He was trying to figure out how Lin Yi knew about this. You didn't. Lin Yi had been an assassin before, and his psychological analysis was even better than Shueishing's. He could tell that Shueishing was lying just by looking at his eyes. You don't need to deny it. I have two friends. One is Yang Huaijuan, injured by your house you. His meridian's broken, and he almost lost his life. The other is Armadillo. We don't know if he's alive or dead. What's the point of saying all that? If you want to punish us, then show me your strength. Shueishing didn't admit or deny it. It wasn't a big secret that House Yu did some shady things under their glamour. After all, and the other noble houses knew a little about it. Otherwise, Huaijuan wouldn't have been able to trace the clues back to House Yu so easily. Yang Huaijuan, what happened back then? Was it your House Yu's doing? Elder Yang Daocha stood up abruptly, glaring at Shueishing. What happened to Huaijuan was a huge blow to House Yang, but they hadn't been able to find the culprit after all these years. But with Lin Yi's words, Elder Yang naturally understood what was going on. I didn't say anything. Shueishing wasn't afraid of Elder Yang at all. He hemped coldly. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me who else was involved, and I'll make sure your house you isn't destroyed. Lin Yi walked towards Shueishing, his voice lifeless, as if it came from hell. Why would I remember something like that? What's the point of saying so much? Winner takes all, and if he's injured or dead, it can only be said that he's not strong enough. Shueishing said, Fine, then you can die now. He shook his head in disappointment. Actually, I don't feel any sense of accomplishment beating a fake Earth class like you. Shueishing paused. He was about to say that He was boasting when Lin Yi's aura burst forth. Shueishing's eyes went wide as he felt the pressure. You're an Earth class early phase. Yeah, that's why I said that beating a fake Earth class like you doesn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. He shook his head. Shueishing's expression changed. To be honest, he never would have thought that He was an Earth class. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used the pill to forcefully raise his strength to Earth class early phase. After taking the pill, he would enter a state of madness. For a moment, his strength would be stronger than a real Earth rank early phase. Then, he would be weakened for a month. He would become weaker and weaker until he regained his original strength. Then, he would start to drop levels. But at this moment, he was the strongest. However, facing a true Earth class like Yi, Shueishing instinctively lost his confidence. He didn't know if he could beat Yi. You were just a mystic mid-phase peak before, and now you're an Earth class early phase? You must have used some unorthodox methods to get to that level. We're not that far apart. We don't know who's going to win yet. Shueishing gritted his teeth. He couldn't back down now. He could only press forward. Kid, give me your life. But after saying that, Shueishing didn't charge at Yi. Instead, he turned and charged at Yuqian. Before dealing with Yi, Shueishing decided to kill Yuqian first. This way, no matter who won or lost, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1708. Earth Class Technique, Frenzy Fist. Lin Yi was an assassin, and his eyes and speed were much better than normal practitioners. How could Lin Yi not understand Shueixing's intentions when he saw him suddenly attack Yutian? Lin Yi had wanted to use Shueixing to practice, but it seemed like that wasn't going to work. Lin Yi's first move was an Earth Class technique. This Frenzy Fist was a technique Faubert had practiced before. There were only the first 3 forms, but it was more than enough for Lin Yi right now. The first 3 forms were prepared for early phase Earth Class masters. These few days, Lin Yi had been practicing Frenzy Fist by himself, but it was his first time using it against an enemy. Shueixing's face froze. He didn't think that Lin Yi had practiced a technique. One had to know that the biggest difference between Earth Class and Mystic Class was the training of their techniques. Shueixing was an Earth Class fake, and he had relied on elixirs to force his way up. How could he have learned any techniques? At most, his strength had reached the early phase of Earth Class, or with the help of the elixirs, he could temporarily reach the peak of the early phase. If it was a clash of pure strength, Lin Yi might not be Shueixing's opponent, but it was a different story with techniques. Martial skills were different from ordinary martial arts. Before reaching the Earth rank, the internal martial arts masters relied on condensing their Zhen Qi into their fists and feet. They relied purely on the amount of Zhen Qi and its tyrannical degree to attack the enemy. However, techniques could bring out the full potential of Qi. To put it bluntly, it was turning Qi into a form much more domineering than pure Qi. Shueixing was from a noble house, and naturally, he'd heard of techniques. Only freelancers like Lin Yi hadn't heard of them before, but now that the newcomer had caught up, a normal Frenzy Fist was enough to make Shueixing feel like he was facing a great enemy. He couldn't care less about attacking Yutian anymore, and after hearing Lin Yi's roar, he panicked and dodged, moving away from Lin Yi's attack range. However, after Shueixing ran away, Lin Yi's fist didn't reach him. Lin Yi was still standing where he was, and this made Shueixing confused. Didn't Lin Yi use an Earth Class technique? Why did it look like nothing had happened? Sorry, I failed. Lin Yi sweated. Since Faubert wasn't an Earth Class, he couldn't demonstrate it himself, so Lin Yi had to figure it out himself. This was his first time in battle, and he'd fail if he wasn't careful. You're messing with me? Shueixing subconsciously thought that Lin Yi didn't know any techniques, and was just bluffing to scare him. Holy Hall, no, I just reached Earth Class not long ago, and I just learned this new technique. I'm not too familiar with it, so I couldn't use it. I'm sorry, Lin Yi said apologetically. Stand there and don't move. I'll use it again. See if it works. Fuck, do you think I'm an idiot? Shueixing was pissed off by Lin Yi's words. Did Lin Yi think he was a 3-year-old? Stand there and don't move? Wait for him to hit me? But Lin Yi didn't waste time with him. He suddenly pushed out with both fists, yelling, Frenzy Fist. Shueixing was so scared that he ran away from where he was standing, faster than a mouse. Hiding on the side, Shueixing subconsciously looked at where Lin Yi was attacking, but realized that Lin Yi still hadn't used any techniques. Lin Yi stood where he was, and the place Lin Yi attacked didn't seem to be damaged at all. Lin Yi, you're messing with me? Shueixing was completely enraged. He believed that Lin Yi had just learned the technique and wasn't familiar with it yet, so he hadn't used it yet. But he didn't use it the second time? Wasn't this bullshit? How could Shueixing believe this? Anyone else would suspect that Lin Yi was just trying to scare him. I'm not messing with you. I really didn't use it. Lin Yi wasn't lying to Shueixing. Lin Yi didn't have a target before, so he'd been practicing the techniques in his jade space. It was his first time using it against an enemy, so he'd made 2 mistakes. You're looking to die. Shueixing raged. Wait, it'll work this time, Lin Yi said before roaring at Shueixing again. Frenzy Fist. Shueixing didn't really believe it, but he still subconsciously dodged to the side. Lin Yi was a cunning bastard. What if he really didn't use it before and used it again? Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't use it this time. Shueixing was once again being played like a monkey. This time, however, Lin Yi was truly playing him. Lin Yi didn't plan on using Frenzy Fist at all, and after 2 failed attempts, Lin Yi gave up on using Frenzy Fist and started compressing the energy bomb. To tell the truth, Lin Yi felt a bit helpless when he switched to this move. It was his only trump card, and it was a bit pitiful. He'd use it from Golden Class to Earth Class, but he was still using it. Lin Yi couldn't wait to find some new trump cards, but the stone door to the 2nd floor wasn't open yet. The first layer of the art of Dragon Mastery had been studied by Lin Yi to its fullest, and he couldn't find anything else he could use. And so, Lin Yi could only start compressing the energy, preparing to use Oscillation Fist to attack Shueixing. Of course, he didn't show it on his face as he tricked Shueixing. Who the hell would believe you? Shueixing humphed as he raised his fist at Lin Yi. Brat, I'll pay with my life today. Lin Yi had already started compressing the energy in his body, but it wasn't enough time for him to hurt anyone. He could only raise his fist to meet Shueixing's attack. Bam! The 2 fists collided in midair, creating a loud sound. This was the sound of chi colliding between 2 Earth-class masters. Lin Yi took 2 steps back, while Shueixing didn't move an inch from where he stood. Lin Yi's face flushed red, then paled as a trickle of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Huffed. Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood, shocking the people who'd thought highly of Lin Yi. They didn't think that Lin Yi, a true Earth-class early phase, wouldn't be able to defeat Shueixing, a pseudo-Earth-class early phase who'd relied on medicine. In fact, Shueixing was burning his own life force in exchange for strength. In the early stages of the pill's effect, Shueixing was able to maintain his Mystic-class early phase peak, which meant that he was only 1 step away from Mystic-class early phase peak. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1709. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had just leveled up to the early phase of Mystic Division, and there was still a long way to go before he reached the peak of the early phase. It was clear who had the upper hand. In terms of pure strength, Lin Yi would definitely be at a disadvantage. Although Lin Yi had the ability to fight above his level, the problem was that Lin Yi was multitasking, and the chi in his body was split into 2 parts. One was used to compress, and the other was used to fight Shueixing. Naturally, he would be at a disadvantage. This meant that Lin Yi was a bit weaker than Shueixing. If it weren't for Lin Yi taking 3 steps back and mitigating the attack from Shueixing's chi, Lin Yi would have been hurt even more. But now, Lin Yi had actually suffered some internal injuries that were neither light nor heavy. Ha. And here I thought you were, showing off in front of me, right after reaching Earth-class early phase. Why aren't you showing off now? Spitting blood? Shueixing was overjoyed to see Lin Yi spitting blood. This meant that he was stronger than Lin Yi after taking the pill. It was worth it. You're an Earth-class early phase, full circle? Lin Yi pretended to be surprised. Holy Hall, of course. Do you think I'm just taking the pill for nothing? Shueixing looked at Lin Yi proudly. Victory was within his grasp now, and his mood was getting better. You really are an idiot, calling yourself an old man in your 40s? Everyone else is acting young. You're acting old. Lin Yi said mockingly. Whatever you say, I've got you. Shueixing looked around at the people in the meeting room. Why aren't you talking? Are you scared? Why would you get involved with Lin Yi if you knew? Song Xiangwen, Wu Gonggao, tell your people to stop now, and I'll spare their lives. In fact, Shueixing was afraid that Lin Yi would get desperate and attack him with 3 Mystic late phase peak and an Earth-class early phase. Although he was strong and wasn't afraid of 4 Mystic late phase peak masters, there was still an Earth-class like Lin Yi. It was hard for him to control, so he spoke first to split Lin Yi's alliance. What? Are you scared? Are you afraid that the 4 of us will join forces to deal with you? Lin Yi asked. Scared? I'm just not willing to take things too far on account of our many years of friendship. As for you, I'll kill you even if you beg on your knees. Shueixing glared at Lin Yi, wanting to eat him alive. Shen Yutian was the same. He killed Yu Feng, so there was no room for reconciliation between him and House Yu. Oh, that's exactly what I want to do. Lin Yi said, I'm going to use a martial skill. This time, I'm going to change to a different martial skill. Prepare to receive my attack. Huh? You want to change? You haven't even mastered one martial skill yet, and you want to change? Shueishin couldn't help but laugh at Lin Yi's words. This Lin Yi sure was funny and stubborn. He'd failed 3 times already, and he still wanted to try? And he wanted to change to a new martial skill? Did he think martial skills were that easy to learn? Shueishin may not have practiced martial skills before, but he knew how difficult it was. His big brother, Yu Huaxing, was an earth class, but he still hadn't found a suitable martial skill, let alone Lin Yi. Yes, this is called oscillating fist. Lin Yi said, "Come, receive my attack. I'll receive it right here. Let's see what you can do to me." Shueishin laughed, not putting Lin Yi in his eyes at all. It wasn't that he was arrogant, but he didn't believe that Lin Yi could use any martial skills at all. If he could, Lin Yi would have used it a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? Normally speaking, who would use a half-baked martial skill to face an enemy first and then use the one they were familiar with? Wasn't that insane? As far as Shueishin was concerned, Lin Yi's so-called second martial skill was either a lie, or it was even worse than the first one. It was a useless bomb. Lin Yi's chi bombs were usually used to win by surprise. If he were to face an enemy, and the enemy was a prepared opponent, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to win by surprise. After all, Lin Yi's chi bombs were slow to compress, and they were troublesome to release. He had to aim at the enemy, and if the enemy dodged, then all his efforts would be wasted. It could be said that Lin Yi's previous chi bombs were all used by surprise, when the enemy wasn't prepared. Shueishin, on the other hand, was different. Judging from Lin Yi's previous failures, Shueishin was a careful man. This was a bit like Boss Yu, and so when Lin Yi used his chi bombs, he had to use some tricks. If Shueishin dodged it, then it'd be troublesome. Shueishin and Lin Yi were both Earth-class early phase, and Shueishin was a bit stronger. Lin Yi didn't have much confidence in fighting him head-on, so he had to use some tricks. Self-created Earth-class technique, oscillating fist, Lin Yi said as he put his hands together, slowly pushing them towards Shueishin. Of course, Lin Yi didn't actually use the energy bomb this time because the time was too short and Lin Yi hadn't finished compressing it yet. Lin Yi also wanted to see if Shueishin was really going to stand there and take the attack, or if he was just saying it. The results proved that Shueishin really didn't dodge this time. He stood where he was, looking at Lin Yi mockingly. Self-created technique? Who do you think you are? You're an ancient heavenly class? He could even create his own martial skills? Aren't you embarrassed to say that? Don't tell me you just created it on a whim, and then failed again because you're not familiar with it? I didn't create it today, I did it a few days ago. Lin Yi replied honestly. I did fail, but you said it's because I'm not familiar with it yet. I'll just try again. Shueishin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Don't tell me you're trying to stall for time. You want to try again? Are you waiting for the effect of the pill to wear off before you attack me? Ugh. No. Lin Yi shook his head. I don't care if you are or not. I'm not afraid to tell you that the effect of my pill needs a month to wear off. If you have the guts, then stay here and use your technique for a month. Let's see if you can do it. Shueishin smiled coldly, as if he'd seen through Lin Yi's thoughts. I really don't. Lin Yi shook his head, and with the same hand gesture, he sent out the energy bomb he'd just condensed. Earth-class technique. Oscillating fist. Shueishin curled his lips, about to say something to mock Lin Yi, but the next moment he felt a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas, striking his chest. Chapter 17:10. Shueishin was startled and tried to dodge, but it was too late. Lin Yi's chi bomb hit his chest with a loud boom. Shueishin felt as if his chest had been hit by a landmine, and the huge force was pushing him away. Shueishin wanted to stay where he was after exchanging punches with Lin Yi. How embarrassing would that be if he were to fly away? But Shueishin's thinking was too simple. It wasn't as simple as losing face anymore. The explosion sent Shueishin flying away in an instant, and since he'd been standing where he was, trying to take the blast head-on, he was in an even worse state now. The explosion was even more severe than before. If he'd flown away with the initial blast, he'd only be injured at most, since Lin Yi's bomb didn't have a lot of chi in it. Lin Yi had only condensed a mid-sized bomb, and it would only be able to lightly injure Shueising. Lin Yi could then take advantage of the situation, But because of Shueising's resistance, he became the center of the explosion, and the huge force blew a hole in his chest. His sternum was blown to smithereens, and his organs were all a mess, turning into a pile of bloody meat. Shueising didn't even have time to scream before he fell to the ground, killed by Lin Yi's bomb. There was a huge hole in his chest, and blood was still flowing out. It was a frightening sight. Holy church, this dramatic turn of events caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. They'd gone from having high hopes for Lin Yi at first to not having high hopes for Lin Yi later on, and now Shueising's tragic death. It had all happened so quickly that they weren't used to it. Of course, these people were shocked, but Lin Yi was even more shocked. How did Shueising die just like that? His true chi bomb had clearly blown him away at most. At most, it would have injured him slightly, but it would not have killed him. As long as Shueising was injured, as long as Lin Yi dealt with him properly, he'd have a chance of killing Shueising. But Shueising didn't dodge. He just stood there, gritting his teeth, and got himself killed. He's dead. Lin Yi walked over and looked at Shueising on the ground. He couldn't be more dead. There was a huge hole in Shueising's chest, and his heart had been smashed to smithereens. It would be a miracle if he could survive like that. Lin Yi's words brought silence to the arena. No one dared to criticize Lin Yi right now. Even if Lin Yi's question was a little funny, no one thought it was funny. Shueising had been killed by Lin Yi, and that was a fact. Who would dare piss Lin Yi off at a time like this? Jiang Wen had been paying attention to Lin Yi ever since he entered the arena, and it was only now that Lin Yi had killed Lin Yi that he let out a long sigh, knowing that his loss wasn't unjust. Lin Yi was an Earth-class early phase, and dealing with the fake Lin Yi was a piece of cake. Plus, he'd underestimated this opponent too much. At first, Jiang Wen thought that Lin Yi was just a random bodyguard. From his perspective, Lin Yi wasn't on the same level as the noble houses, and he only needed a few tricks to deal with him. But today, after seeing Lin Yi's power, Jiang Wen understood that if he wanted to deal with Lin Yi in the future, simple tricks wouldn't be enough. He'd need something even stronger. It's all over. Lin Yi sighed. It was a little regretful that he didn't manage to get the pangolin's whereabouts. But Lin Yi understood that even if Shueising hadn't died, he wouldn't have remembered about the pangolin. In his eyes, the pangolin was just a small character. Why would he pay attention to something like that? So with Shueising's death, Lin Yi could see it as revenge for the pangolin. Lin Yi walked quickly to the meeting table and sat on the main seat that Shueising had been sitting on. He looked around at the heads of the houses. These people were getting goosebumps from Lin Yi's stare. They all lowered their heads, not daring to meet Lin Yi's eyes. Only Elder Lu Zhenu nodded at Lin Yi in a friendly manner. The atmosphere in the meeting room became a little strange. Everyone was here to participate in the noble house meeting, but now that Housey was dead, there was no point in holding the meeting anymore. However, no one dared to stand up and leave. Who knew if Lin Yi would suddenly attack them? He even dared to kill Shueising. What was there left to do? For big houses, 5 small houses, only 8 left now. Lin Yi looked at the people at the table, his eyes finally landing on Dr. Kang's face. Dr. Kang had long since lost his composure. He felt like he was sitting on a bed of needles. He and Lin Yi could be considered old enemies. He'd started a feud with Lin Yi during the birthday banquet, and he didn't doubt that Lin Yi would kill him on the spot. Dr. Kang, why are you still sitting here? Scram, Lin Yi said faintly as he looked at Dr. Kang. I'll leave now. Dr. Kang stood up as if he'd just been pardoned. He brought Kang Gue phone with him, ready to leave. He didn't even think about leveling up to a noble house anymore. Being able to keep his life was already a blessing. Wait, take your Xiao family with you. You can all scram. Lin Yi pointed at the 2 Xiao family brothers. Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben were Lin Yi's old enemies. But even the hidden house Pai didn't dare cause trouble for Lin Yi. What right did they have to question Lin Yi's words? The two of them looked at each other and stood up dejectedly. Jiang Wen, I don't need to call names, right? Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen and in Ming Yue's direction. Lin Yi, we've always had a pretty good relationship. Did you forget that you were the one who gave me ideas to pursue Ming Yao? Jiang Wen asked, putting on a fake smile. From today onwards, the 4 big houses and 5 small houses will become history. Lin Yi didn't answer Jiang Wen's question. The old noble house structure no longer exists. I need to reorganize it, but Jiang Wen, I don't want to bring you along. It's fine. Housen isn't good at practicing. When we were a noble house, we were just there to make up the numbers. Since Lin Yi says so, then we'll leave. Jiang Wen understood that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. He stood up and prepared to leave. To be honest, Jiang Wen didn't really care about being a noble house. What Housen was doing was helping the firewolves, so it didn't matter if they were a noble house or not. Chapter 17:11. House Kong, Xiao family, and in family left the meeting room. Other than the dead House Yu, only House Chun, House Song, House Lu, House Wu, House Yang, and House Sun were left. Chapter 17:13. From today onwards, the title of noble house is gone. Does anyone have any objections? Lin Yi looked at the heads of the noble houses. No. Lu Zhenhu was the first to agree. He knew that the title of noble house was useless now. What happened today would soon spread out, and the leader and judge of noble houses, House Yu, would become a joke in history. These noble houses were all chosen by House Yu, and now that House Yu is gone, what noble house was left? The houses that were close to Lin Yi, even without the title of noble house, were still powerful. On the other hand, the houses that were enemies with Lin Yi, like the 3 that just left, were destined to lose their former glory, even if they still had the title of noble house. Of course not. The era of House Yu is over, and us old guys should step down. House Wu will be in charge of Qintian from now on, and I'm going to focus on my training. Wu Gonggao was a sly old fox, and he knew that his grandson recognized Lin Yi as his boss. It didn't matter if House Wu was still a noble house or not. They wouldn't be at a disadvantage. And so, Wu Gonggao agreed with Lin Yi, saying, I'm fine with it too. Chen Quanlan followed. House Chun will be in Yu Tian's hands. I heard that you and Huaijuan used to be teammates. Of course, the Yang family agrees. Yang Daocha also expressed his opinion. You're Shanshan's boyfriend, right? Then we're a family, of course. I'll leave Shanshan in your care from now on, and we, House Song, hope that you can help us as well. Song Xiangwen was even more sly, guessing the relationship between the two from the moment Lin Yi and Lingshan entered the meeting room together. That can't be right. Old Song. He is obviously my Jingyi's boyfriend. How did he become your Shanshan's boyfriend? Old Master Sun heard Song Xiangwen's words and immediately became unhappy. Previously, he was very dissatisfied with Sun Jingyi's private boyfriend. Although he heard that Sun Jingyi's boyfriend was a wandering cultivator and a mystic stage master, he only agreed to let Sun Jingyi bring Lin Yi to meet him when Lin Yi agreed to marry into her family. But now, Old Man Sun had met Lin Yi, and it was under such circumstances. As for the so-called son-in-law, Old Man Sun didn't want to mention it. Now, even a fool could see how popular Lin Yi was and how useful he was to these families. Now, all the noble houses were showing their goodwill to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi had already become the core existence that replaced House Yu, so Elder Sun didn't want to be outdone. Before, he wanted Sun Jingyi to see if there were any young men in the noble house meeting. Wasn't this Lin Yi a young man? The young man was right in front of them. How is that possible? Shanshan, tell me, is your boyfriend this Master Lin Yi? Xiangwen asked Lingshan. Jingyi, isn't he the boyfriend you were talking about? Elder Sun didn't back down. Lingshan and Sun Jingyi, on the other hand, were blushing. Neither of them were Lin Yi's girlfriends. Lingshan was pursuing Lin Yi, and Sun Jingyi was pretending. How were they supposed to answer this? I'm Shield Bro's small wife. Plus, Shield Bro has 3 wives, 2 big wives, and 2 small wives. What you two fighting for? What you two fighting for? They're just queuing up. Yushu said. Huh? Both Song Xiangwen and Old Man's son were stunned. They didn't know why Lin Yi called him Shield Bro, but the person Yushu was talking about was most likely Lin Yi. And Lin Yi already had 4 wives? His granddaughter had to queue up? Xiangwen frowned at the thought. How could Hao Song's granddaughter be someone else's small wife? She had to queue up? Elder son, on the other hand, had the same thought. He looked at Jingyi suspiciously. Man, it's good to have a granddaughter of this age. I want to marry my granddaughter to Lin Yi, but there's none. Wu Qintian sighed. His words were like a wake-up call. Song Xiangwen, an old master's son, immediately came back to their senses. Yes, Lin Yi was an earth class. He was on the same level as the masters of the hidden houses. Marrying his granddaughter to him wasn't a bad thing. And now, it seemed like Lin Yi had replaced House Yu as the strongest force among the noble houses. Although he was only one person, he wasn't alone. He had a few followers, and they were all heirs of the noble houses. Fine, I'll queue up first, Xiangwen said quickly, afraid that he wouldn't even have the chance to queue up. Why do you have to queue up first? House Son isn't that bad either. Elder Son wasn't happy. All right, you 2 old masters stop fighting. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Was he the hot commodity now? But Lin Yi didn't come here to find a wife. He wanted to build up his own force. And so Lin Yi waved his hand to stop the 2. Shan, Jingyi, and I are good friends. As for relationships, let's just let it be. Let's not talk about it for now. What I want to say today is that the noble houses are canceled, but I'm preparing to set up a practitioners association. I want to invite all the noble houses to participate. What do you all think? I've already said that Shantian will be in charge of House Wu from now onwards. I won't participate. Gong Gao said immediately. No matter what Lin Yi suggested, he would agree. Gong Gao wasn't an idiot. Chun Tian went from a golden class to a mystic late phase, peak spiritual practitioner. He wouldn't believe it if he said that it wasn't because of Lin Yi. And so, House Wu naturally agreed with Lin Yi's decision. Behind Gong Gao, Wu Qingdi, on the other hand, had a look of disappointment in his eyes. Ever since Shantian revealed his mystic late phase peak strength, he had been disappointed again and again. The gap between him and Shantian was too big. He would never be able to catch up to Shantian, but he didn't want to accept it. Why was Shantian so lucky? How did he get to meet such a good boss like Lin Yi? How did he get his strength? Why did all the good things belong to Shantian? Ever since he was young, whether it was in House Wu or outside, it was the same. Chapter 17:12. And so, Chen was deeply dissatisfied, but he knew where he stood. He could only lower his head and keep quiet. Holy Halchindi didn't understand why Chintian was so lucky, and why was fate so unfair. He wanted to turn things around, but under the current circumstances, he could only swallow his anger and pretend to be happy, with a fake smile on his face. House Chun, naturally, has nothing to say. Yutian has grown up, and we'll let him make the decisions. Chun Quanglan was very happy today. This sudden change made him realize that his grandson had not only grown up, but most importantly, he had met a benefactor. He could finally relax. Hao Song's boy hasn't grown up yet, but Shan Shan can still make the decisions for now. Song Xiangwen expressed his support as well. Even an idiot could tell that Lin Yi's Cultivators Association was similar to the noble houses of old, just with a different name. As long as one was a member of the association, they would still be like a noble house in the future, and with Lin Yi's protection, it would be even more glorious than before, and the number of practitioners and strength would increase. We don't have any objections. We don't have practitioners, but if Miracle Dr. Lin doesn't mind, we're willing to join as well. Zhenu smiled. Miracle Dr. Lin has a good relationship with my boss, Lu Tianyi. I'm sure there won't be any problems in communicating with him. House Yang has no objections. We'll let Yang Huaijuan make the decisions in the future. It's time for me to retire, Yang Daocha said. Now, Only Hao Sun was left. Although the old man of Hao Sun was in favor of the idea, when the families expressed their stance, they sent a person who could maintain their relationship with Lin Yi. In other words, it was the spokesperson of the family in the Practitioners Association. In fact, it was equivalent to the existence of the head of the family. However, elder Sun couldn't decide who to let take on this role. Although Sun Jingyi's surname was Sun, she didn't have the same surname. She was different from Song Lingshan. The male heir of Hao Song was too young to take on the role, so he let Song Lingshan take the role temporarily. However, the two males of the Sun family weren't young anymore. If Sun Jingyi were to play this role, there would be no reason to replace her in the future. This put Old Master Sun in a difficult position. For a moment, he couldn't make a decision. He looked up at Sun Jingyi. Sun Jingyi had roughly guessed her grandfather's difficulties, but she didn't care about it. She didn't want to control the Sun family. So he smiled and said, "Kai, haven't you met Lin Yi and got along well with him? In the future, you will be responsible for contacting the Sun family. There are too many things in my company. I don't have time. Sanctuary." Okay. Sun Kai was overjoyed. He didn't think that Sun Jingyi would speak up for him. In fact, with his position in Hao Sun, it was quite awkward. There was a big brother above him, and he was a straightforward person. He wasn't suitable to be the head of the house. However, with one sentence from Sun Jingyi, the awkwardness was solved. "Sun Kai, this is the third time we meet, right?" Lin Yi smiled. "Yes. What should I call you in the future? Brother-in-law?" Sun Kai smiled. It was funny when he thought about it. When he first met Lin Yi, he said that he would protect Lin Yi and make Lin Yi look for him if there was any trouble. But in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi had replaced House Yu and became a #1 practitioner in the common world. "Just call me Lin," Lin Yi said lightly. "Your sister is a smart person. I'm just her shield. When there's trouble, she looks for me. When there's nothing, she doesn't look for me. It seems like I'm fated to be a shield bro." Lin Yi's words made the atmosphere lighten up. Everyone finally understood why Yushu called Lin Yi shield bro. So this was what she meant. "Then, I'll call you boss like Chen Tian and the others." Sun Kai decided to be the same as everyone else. Since Chen Tian and Yu Tian were calling him that, then he should be calling him that. "Huh," Lin Yi smiled. "Actually, the reason why I set up this guild is simple. It's to unite everyone, and I'll help someone in your family level up quickly. I believe you've all seen the changes in Chen Tian, Yu Tian, and Lingshan's strength, but each family only has one spot. We'll consider adding more in the future." Lin Yi could only help his confidence level up. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't use the art of dragon mastery on anyone else. It was a matter of loyalty, and if word got out, it'd be bad for his own safety. Everyone suspected that Lin Yi had something to do with Chen Tian, Yu Tian, and Lingshan's sudden increase in strength, but hearing it from Lin Yi's own mouth was still shocking and regretful. Each family only had one spot. This meant that only Chen Tian, Chen Yu Tian, Lingshan, Huaijuan, and Sun Jingyi could receive Lin Yi's help. As for House Lu, they didn't have any practitioners yet, so they didn't think too much about it. The one who felt the most regretful was Sun Kai. He knew that Lin Yi would definitely give the spot to Sun Jingyi. Out of all the representatives, only his situation was special. But it didn't matter. Lin Yi said that he could add more spots in the future. This meant that he still had a chance. Looking at the excited faces, Lin Yi continued, "Actually, I'm sure you all know who I am. I'm a doctor, but my other identity is a refiner. This is also why I can help people level up so quickly. But my energy and level are limited. I can't do it all the time." Lin Yi attributed his art of dragon mastery to the fact that he was an elixir refiner. His identity as an elixir refiner had already been exposed once when he was hiding in House Tang, so it wasn't a big deal. After all, elixir refiners were rare, but it wasn't a big deal. But if Lin Yi said that he could transfer pure qi to others, it'd be a big deal if word got out. Lin Yi was afraid of being captured and used as a lab rat. But a refiner was different. There was no point in capturing one because any practitioner with a brain would know that not everyone could become a refiner. There was no point in capturing one. Moreover, there was an unwritten rule in the Jianghu. An alchemist's status was a notch above others. No family or sect would kidnap an alchemist and force him to refine pills for them. This was equivalent to breaking the rules of the Jianghu. Chapter 17:13. Since you can take it, then fine. My sect is stronger than yours, so I'll take the refiner from your hands. It'll be a mess. Plus, refiners didn't usually work alone, but as a group. There are almost no rogue cultivators who became alchemists. Almost every alchemist had a master or sect, and their masters or sects all had powerful connections. This was also the reason why no one dared to force alchemists to become alchemists. Holy Church and so Lin he made up the identity of a refiner so that his opponents wouldn't notice him. Refiner. After Lin he announced his identity, everyone present was in an uproar. Although alchemists were famous in the ancient times, and almost every sect had dealings with alchemists, the noble houses and hidden houses, especially the normal noble houses, had never seen an alchemist in their entire lives. They were existences of legends, and now one was sitting in front of them. Qintian, Yu Qian, and Lingshan didn't react much, since they already knew about Lin Yi's plan. The others, however, were different, especially Sun Jingyi. She realized that she didn't understand Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi was an elixir refiner? Wasn't this too shocking? Had he been in all kinds of industries before? House Lu, on the other hand, was enlightened. Lu Tianyi sighed. No, a wonder miracle doctor. Lin's medical skills are so amazing. To be able to create such a shocking pill, like the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. So he's a refiner. House Lu knew that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was made by Lin Yi, but the other noble houses didn't. Now that they heard that the pill that had caused such a commotion at the auction was made by Lin Yi, realization dawned on them. As expected, Xu Min didn't have that kind of skill. They hadn't seen him produce any special pills in the past few years, and he'd always been suppressed by Dr. Kang's name. It was only recently that he'd suddenly become famous, and it was all because of Lin Yi. All right, if there's nothing else, you may leave. I'll contact the people in charge of the other houses. Lin Yi didn't really care about the crowd's shock. His main goal here was to destroy House Yu, and secondly, to gather the strength of the other noble houses. At this point, Lin Yi had no more obstacles on the level of noble houses. He could calm down and think about the hidden House Yu and House Zhao's matters. The meeting of the noble houses ended abruptly on the first day. It felt a little anticlimactic, but the hearts of the people who came were heavy and happy at the same time. The power structure of the noble houses was about to change. House Zhao, House In, and House Kong were kicked out of the alliance by Lin Yi, and they wouldn't let it go easily. St. Hall, but no matter what, this wasn't something they had to worry about. They had to think about the benefits of their own houses. Now that House Yu had been replaced by Lin Yi, they didn't lose anything at all. Instead, they gained even more benefits, especially if they could make friends with Lin Yi, an Earth-class early-phase alchemist. This was a good thing no matter what. In a hotel not far from House Yu's auction, the two brothers from Family Xiao and House Kang's Dr. Kong, as well as Kong Guifeng, sat there. Although the two houses had some conflicts and disagreements before, they were all in the same predicament now. They sat together, ready to discuss their future plans. Originally, they wanted a rope in house, but in Mingwen and Jiangwen clearly had no interest in participating in their business. It was as if the title of a noble house wasn't important to Housen. In fact, this was also the case. These aristocratic families wanted the title of an aristocratic family so that they could get the attention of other aristocratic families when doing business. However, the family's business was the kind that couldn't be seen in the light. Having the title of an aristocratic family made them a little more fearful. So without the title of a noble house, they didn't really care. House Xiao and House Kong, on the other hand, were different. House Kong desperately wanted to enter the ranks of the noble houses because they were an alliance led by House Yu. They helped each other, and only then would they be able to do well in each other's territory. Now that family Shao was kicked out of the noble house circle, they couldn't count on the other noble houses to take care of them anymore. Although they had the support of the hidden house Pai, those who had the support of Lin, he wouldn't give the Shao family any face. It would be hard for them to develop in the future. And so, Xiao Bin pulled Xiao Ji along with him and started to sit with Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng, the two slightly unhappy people. Lin, even the hidden house Pai, can't do anything to him. Looking at Xiao Ji and Xiao Bin, Dr. Kong asked helplessly. He knew a thing or two about what happened between Lin, Yi, and the Xiao family. He knew that 3 people from House Pai died, but they didn't do anything to Lin Yi. He didn't understand. This Lin, he might have a big background behind him. The hidden house Pai warned us not to mess with Lin Yi, but now it's a situation where we have no choice but to mess with him. Xiao Ji humphed. After being forced by him, our Xiao family's business, which had just started to get better, is going to be finished. We can only retreat back to Songshan, and this is Lin Yi's base. Yeah, you guys are making money for the hidden house Pai. Now that something like this happened, they can't just ignore you, right? Kong Guifeng asked. All right, let's not talk about this for now. Xiao Ben was a smart man. He waved his hand and didn't answer Kong Guifeng's question. He knew that Kong Guifeng wanted him to go get revenge on House Pai, but House Pai had already expressed their stance on this. Although it affected House Pai's profits, Xiao Bin still didn't have the confidence to make House Pai help. He wanted to test House Kang's trump card. I say, House Kong, this time you want to become a noble house, so you prepared well, right? What's your bargaining chip to become a noble house? You don't need to be so guarded against me. I want House Pai to help, but this reason isn't enough. Something that doesn't benefit them is something that a hidden noble house wouldn't do easily. You understand? All right, if that's the case, then I'll tell you the truth. Dr. Kong said, do you remember the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Of course I remember. What's wrong? Xiao Ben asked calmly. House Kong is currently researching the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If we can get rid of the obstacle that is Lin Yi, we can work together. I believe that with the recipe in our hands, even the hidden noble houses will respect us. Dr. Kong said. Chapter 1714. Oh, so you've developed it already? Xiao Ben asked, surprised. Not quite there yet. Dr. Kong shook his head. But you could tell the hidden house Pai that I'll give them priority once we've developed it, as long as they support us. That's good. I'll ask the hidden house Pai for their opinion. Xiao Ben sighed. But I can't promise anything, all right. We've had some misunderstandings in the past, but now we should let bygones be bygones and work together. That's the only way we can fight against Lin Yi's alliance. Kong Guifeng said. That marriage between our 2 families. I think we can continue with it. Kong Guifeng was thinking further. If Xiaolong were to marry Xinyan, that would solidify his position in House Kong, since House Kong and Xiao family's interests were intertwined. It was undeniable that a marriage was a huge bargaining chip. That's something I can consider, but we'll talk about it after we get through this. Xiao Ben didn't decline. It was just a marriage between a niece with a different surname and House Kong. After all, he couldn't be too calculative with House Kong right now. Moreover, if the Kong family really managed to develop the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, then their status would skyrocket. The effects of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing were practically on par with the legendary bone cleansing and marrow cleansing pill. In actuality, the bone cleansing and marrow cleansing pill was called the Greater Foundation Establishment Pill and the Lesser Foundation Establishment Pill. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, on the other hand, seemed to be even more effective than the Foundation Establishment Pill. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been sold at such a high price in the auction. The Foundation Establishment Pill could only refine one's body, and it couldn't extend one's lifespan. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, on the other hand, could do the trick. Heart, all right. The bigger picture is more important. Dr. Kong nodded. Our house Kong will be waiting for your good news. At the same time, something big happened in Songshan. Sihua brought his men to the orphanage and reported the matter to Zhao Qibing after the discussion with the headmaster broke down. Qibing wasn't feeling too good right now. He lost a couple $100 million to Bloodcloak Yellow Springs sect for no reason. He couldn't afford to offend them, but a small orphanage wasn't something he would put in his eyes. Sihua, take Boss Zhu with you and burn that orphanage down. Damn it, I'm giving them face, but they don't want it. This time, I'll make them lose everything. Zhao Qibing slammed the table angrily. He really felt suffocated. Ever since he came to Songshan, other than getting a qi gathering pill for House Zhao, he had accomplished nothing else. Holy Church becoming the head of the hidden house, Zhao, wasn't something that could be achieved with just one qi gathering pill. One had to have other abilities, and so Qibing had been earning money nonstop. Yes, Sihua nodded. Then I'll bring some men to prepare. Do it cleanly. Don't leave any evidence behind. Qibing said, remember, burn it cleanly, burn all the houses in the orphanage. If they can still live after the fire is extinguished, it'll be hard to do it again. Don't worry, Master Bing. I'm good at this. Sihua patted his chest and promised. HM, how about this? You get ready. I'll light the fire myself. Qibing had a fire in his heart that he hadn't vented yet, and he wanted to light the fire himself to vent it. No problem. I prepared everything. Master Bing, you just need to light the fire, Sihua said. And so, on a dark and windy night, Qibing brought Sihua and Boss Zhu to the orphanage. There was a large amount of gasoline in the back of Sihua's pickup truck, prepared to burn the orphanage down. Very well, this is a good day. The weather is dry, the moon is dark, and the wind is strong. It's a good day to set a fire. Qibing said, Boss Zhu, go pour the gasoline. Pour as much as you can. The bigger the fire, the better. No problem. Boss Zhu got out of the car and jumped into the orphanage with a huge barrel of gasoline. Boss Zhu was an Earth-class master, and the orphanage's director and Xiaoka naturally wouldn't be able to sense his presence. So, Boss Zhu went back and forth a few times, pouring all the gasoline into the orphanage and the surrounding fences. Everything's ready. Master Bing, you can light the fire now, Boss Zhu said. Well done. Qibing got out of the car with a torch in his hand, and, with a whoosh, he threw it into the orphanage's yard. He then took a few more torches from Sihua and threw them all into the orphanage. The inside of the orphanage was instantly set ablaze. Huh, I'm leaving after I'm done. Qibing clapped his hands and said happily. Setting the orphanage on fire today made him feel a lot better. Before, he was bullied by Lin Yi's follower, Wu Qintian, and he couldn't take revenge. Although his broken leg was healed by Elder Bai, the incident with Bloodcloak and Yellow Spring sect made him want to die. Today, with the release of the fire, the depression in his chest had finally dissipated by more than half. Qibing and Boss Zhu got in the car, and Sihua stepped on the gas, and the truck disappeared into the night and the fire. Such a big fire. The orphanage will be destroyed tomorrow for sure, Sihua said as he looked in the rearview mirror. This is too good. No wonder there are so many stress-relieving amusement parks. People go and destroy them. It's so fun. Qibing said excitedly. I really want to burn another house. Ha! When the head of the house comes out, we'll go burn Lin Yi's villa, Sihua said. We'll get even with him then. Fuck, no wonder Lin Yi likes to tear down my skyscraper. It's so fun. Qibing said regretfully. I can't tear down a skyscraper. It'd be fun too. Qibing and the others returned to the floating cloud bar and quickly fell asleep in excitement. The orphanage, on the other hand, was extremely busy. The first one to notice something was wrong was Xiaoka. She was depressed, but she had been sleeping late these past few days. She was sure that she was lovesick, and the image of the male thief kept appearing in her mind, causing her to have insomnia. In the middle of the night, she dreamt of the male thief, and when she woke up, she saw the fire outside her window. She jumped in fright and rushed out her house, only to find that the yard and the roof were on fire. Chapter 1716. The building is burned too? Xiaoka couldn't care less about the things in her room anymore. She quickly went to wake the dean up. Oh no, there's a fire. School Beauty's Bodyguard, Chapter 1716. The dean was a light sleeper and was woken up by Xiaoka's voice. She was shocked when she saw the situation outside. Quick, go save the children. And so, Xiaoka and the dean quickly rushed into the children's dormitory. Fortunately, both of them were descendants of the Fian sect. Although they were in a sea of fire, they could always find a place to stay. The two of them risked their lives to rescue the children in the orphanage. Behind them, the orphanage was already a vast sea of fire. The wind was strong today, and the air was dry, so the fire was out of control. From the orphanage, it was already spreading to other areas. After saving the children, Xiaoka finally reacted. Yes, let's call the fire department. The orphanage is going to burn. In a rush, the dean didn't bring her phone, and the orphanage was right next to the construction site of the slums. On the other side was the business district, but the shops were all closed at night, and it was hard to find a single person. The dean looked around for a long time before finding a public phone booth to call the fire department. But by then, the fire had already spread to the construction site of the slums next to the orphanage. By the time the piercing sound of the fire engine sounded, the fire was already out of control. Although a number of fire trucks came to support, due to the strong wind and the large fire, there were a lot of flammable items piled up on the construction site of the shantytown, such as wooden cubes and the like. As a result, the fire grew bigger and bigger. It was not until dawn that the fire was extinguished. Qibing, Sihua, and Boss Zhu, on the other hand, had a good night's sleep. When they woke up the next morning, Qibing couldn't wait to get Sihua to turn on the TV. Quick, look at the new. The orphanage is probably in ruins now. Haha, that's for sure. Sihua nodded and turned on the TV. The three of them sat on the sofa, ready to watch the destruction of the orphanage. Around 1 in the morning, a huge fire broke out in the orphanage near the old slums. When the firefighters arrived, the fire was already out of control, and it started to spread to the construction site nearby. After the firefighters' hard work, they finally extinguished the fire at 7 this morning. But the orphanage, as well as the newly built Qibing skyscraper, were all burnt to ashes. Following the news, there was a scene of the orphanage and Qibing skyscraper being burnt down. Qibing heard the news and jumped up with a whoosh. He looked at the news in disbelief. Impossible. How is this possible? My skyscraper. Sihua and Boss Zhu had a bitter look on their faces as well. They didn't think that burning the orphanage would burn down the Qibing skyscraper next to it. And the most important thing was that the newly built skyscraper hadn't even been used for a day. Who can tell me what's going on? Qibing kicked the TV angrily, shattering the LCD TV. It fell to the ground, creating sparks. But Qibing didn't care. How much was a TV? What he cared about now was the Qibing skyscraper. This skyscraper had been destroyed twice since it was built. The first 2 times were caused by Lin Yi, but the third time he burned it down with his own hands. This, Master Bing, we didn't know that it would affect the Qibing skyscraper next to it. Sihua was troubled as well. I just followed your instructions and found a weather that would be easy to set fire to. Master Bing, I'm just following your orders, pouring the gasoline. Boss Zhu said with a bitter face. Neither he nor Sihua were experts in this field, nor did they have any experience. How was Sihua supposed to calculate the intensity of the fire? Boss Zhu, on the other hand, couldn't have predicted that the intensity of the fire would affect the Qibing skyscraper. It's not your fault. Qibing waved his hand helplessly and sat on the ground. He should have given more money to the orphanage or built a new one somewhere else if he knew this would happen. But it was too late for regrets now. Although Qibing's goal was achieved, the price he paid was too high. Sihua was hoping to earn more money from this project to pay back Bloodcloak Underworld, but it seemed like it was all for naught now. Sihua had a bitter look on his face all day long. But compared to Sihua and Qibing, the orphanage was the most difficult. The orphanage was gone, and the dean had no choice but to bring the children to a cheaper duplex loft. Hundreds of children were squeezed into a 300-square-meter room, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was a squeeze. Xiaoka had gotten a lot of money for the orphanage a while ago, but it wasn't enough to rebuild the orphanage. After all, they couldn't rebuild the orphanage with the old bungalows, could they? They had to make it more presentable. Xiaoka's money was reserved for the orphanage's daily expenses. If she took it out from the bank and used it to rebuild the orphanage, it wouldn't be enough. What would they do after the money was used up? The treasures Xiaoka brought out were only worth around 5 million. 5 million was fine if it was just for the simple construction, but it wouldn't even be enough to buy the necessary equipment if they had to build the facilities. This fire must have been set by someone from Zhao Qibing's company, but they didn't set it up properly and burned their own company nearby. Ken said angrily, "They deserve it. They deserve it. I'm guessing that Sihua will come to us again to discuss the swap. And this time, we'll have to do it even if we don't want to." The dean sighed helplessly. "We really can't afford to offend the hidden house Zhao. If it were back then..." Sigh. What the dean wanted to say was that if it were back then, she wouldn't even care about a small hidden house. But now, the hidden Zhao family was a colossus to her. But Xiaoka only knew a limited amount about what happened back then, and the dean didn't want to talk too much about it. She didn't want her enemies to come and ruin their peaceful life. Chapter 17:15. No! The dean and Ken interrupted Xiaoka's thoughts at the same time. "You already escaped death last time. Aren't you just looking to die if you go again?" "Ah, then what should we do? We can't have a bunch of people here, can we? They sleep together every night. It's hard to even turn around." Xiaoka said worriedly as she looked at the horrible environment. "It's so hot. I'm afraid the kids might get heat rash." "Xiaoka, sis, maybe you should go look for Lenny Bro again." Ken hinted, "Didn't he bring a bunch of donations to the orphanage last time? That was already the limit. Most people have already donated money. How can we make things difficult for them again?" Xiaoka shook her head. "Plus, my relationship with Lin isn't that good. He seems to look down on me. I don't want to trouble him." "Look down on him? I don't think so." Ken thought. "Look down on you and still go save you? How is that possible?" This was a bit troublesome. He'd promised Lin, but he couldn't tell Xiaoka. He could only hint at her, and she wouldn't understand. Xiaoka's right. We can't always trouble other people. We need to think of a way ourselves. "Oh well," Amos nodded and said, "He helped us once before. How can we trouble him again?" "Oh," Ken nodded, thinking that he should find a chance to call Lin and ask him if he had any ideas. It seemed like Xiaoka, sis, was going to marry him in the future, so it was only right for him to do something for the orphanage now. Otherwise, how could he bring home the goddess of the orphanage? Now, the ones with the biggest headache were Qibing and Sihua. They didn't have the mood to negotiate with the orphanage anymore. It was the same as looting a burning house and giving the police something to use against them. Of course, this wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that Qibing's new building was burnt down, and he couldn't help but curse his bad luck. Ever since he started his business, he hadn't done anything successful. His real estate business had been failing from the start. Luckily, Elderby didn't care much about external things, and Siwa took all the responsibility, so Elderby didn't blame Qibing. After all, as far as he was concerned, Qibing was focused on practicing now, leaving the company to his underlings. This was his underlings doing out of goodwill, but it had nothing to do with Qibing. After the noble house meeting, Lin Yi and Yushu returned to Songzhan. According to Lin Yi's promise with them, he was going to bring them to Star West Village for a trip in August. Holy Church, Yu Qian, Lingshan, and Chuntian, on the other hand, went back to their houses. The situation in the noble houses had changed, and they needed to go back and discuss countermeasures. In actuality, as Lin Yi's strength increased, so did his view of the world. In his eyes, those noble houses that were high and mighty were nothing more than this now. So Lin Yi wasn't too enthusiastic about the Cultivators' Union. He was just making a name for it, and in actuality, his right and left hands were Chuntan, Yu Qian, and Lingshan. As for their families, it was fine as long as they didn't cause trouble for Lin Yi. Lin Yi received a call from Ken on the way back, and only then did he know that the orphanage was on fire, and now it was a pile of ashes. The funny thing was that Qibing's building was burnt down to a skeleton as well, and he had to tear it down and rebuild it. Ken, you're suspecting that the fire has something to do with Zhao Qibing? Lin Yi understood what Ken was trying to say. We all suspect it, but we don't have any evidence, and their building was burnt down as well. That's their excuse. Ken was a little mischievous, and he understood the situation very well. Oh, I don't need evidence to do things, so we need to ask them for money. Lin, he wasn't Ling Shan, and he only needed to suspect. Lin, he thought, was this little bastard Zhao Qibing's leg itching again? Hadn't he broken it enough? It seemed like he had to find a chance to break it again. At the mention of money, Ken said, "Male thief bro, can you support the orphanage with some money? You're a male thief. You must be rich. Or else, Xiaoka sis has to go on a mission again, and you don't want her to take the risk, do you?" Ken was asking Lin Yi for money, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he said it as if it was the right thing to do. From his perspective, Lin Yi wanted to marry Xiaoka, so he should at least give her some money, right? You know about it. Lin Yi was a little surprised at Ken's analysis. It seemed like Xiaoka had told him about what happened that day. I guessed, Ken said. How could there be such a coincidence? I just told you that Xiaoka sis was in trouble, and the male thief went to help her. Huh? Lin Yi smiled helplessly. How is he a male thief? A proper male thief would have died a long time ago. Where would he get the money? But he still asked, how much does the orphanage need? I'm not sure, but rebuilding it might need a lot of money. Xiaoka sis and the dean are worried about it. Ken said, all right, I'll think of a way. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Lin Yi wasn't a nosy person, but with his relationship with Xiaoka, he couldn't just ignore it. Besides, Lin Yi had seen how hard it was for the children in the orphanage. Now that was on fire, it must be even more difficult. Then I'll wait for your good news. Thank you, male thief bro. Ken heard Lin Yi's agreement and was very happy. And wait for my good news. Lin Yi said, all right, thank you, male thief bro. Ken thanked Lin Yi again. Don't worry, I'll help you keep your identity a secret. Okay. Lin Yi was a little helpless towards Ken. Although his last sentence was almost a threat, meaning that if Lin Yi didn't help, he would tell Xiaoka his identity. But Lin Yi didn't dislike it at all, because Ken wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing this for the orphanage, just like Xiaoka. Chill bro, what's wrong? Can you talk to Shu about it? Yushu asked when she saw the frown on his face. Zhao Qibing, that idiot, burned down the orphanage and his new building. He's really looking for trouble. I think he needs a beating, so he's looking for trouble. Lin Yi shrugged. That's right. I'm looking for trouble. Lin Yi shrugged. Seriously? Burn again? This guy is really unlucky. Yushu subconsciously stuck out her tongue when she heard that Qibing's building was destroyed again. Was this guy a jinx? Otherwise, ordinary people wouldn't be so unlucky, right? Chapter 17:18. Thank you for your hard work. His bad luck is secondary. The key is that the children in the orphanage don't have a place to stay anymore. They're all living in a 300-square-meter attic, and it's so crowded. Lin Yi said, how much does it cost to rebuild an orphanage? Lin Yi said, how much does it cost to rebuild an orphanage? I'm not sure about that, but if it's our land, we'll only have the construction fees left. Chill bro, you can ask Fatty Lai. Wasn't he a professional in construction? Yushu reminded. Okay, I'll ask him. Lin Yi said and called Fatty Lai. Boss, you're back. Fatty Lai was one of those who was well informed. He had heard the news of House Yu's downfall, and that House Kang's application to become a noble house had failed. This made him even happier. With this, House Kang had even less of a competitive edge. House Lai's status would rise, and Lai Changyi's name would become more and more famous. After all, he was Lin Yi's follower. Lai Changyi had long expected that he would have such a day. Now, he had an advantage over any noble house because he was one of the first followers of Lin Yi. Not yet, it's on the way. Lin Yi said, there's something I want to ask you. I want to build an orphanage. If we have the land, how much does it cost? Fatty Lai paused. He didn't understand why Lin asked this, but he still answered honestly. Building an orphanage depends on the type of building. If it's a larger scale, it'll be comparable to a school. For example, those orphanages in big cities have dormitories, activity rooms, libraries, and so on. Some even have their own kindergartens, elementary schools, and middle schools. If we build all of these together, it'll cost at least 100 million. Of course, if we buy all the necessary facilities, it'll cost at least 200 million. That much? Lin, he was surprised. Of course, if it's just a normal orphanage providing food and lodging for the orphans, a few million would be enough, Fatty Lai said. The key is what kind of building you want it to be, boss. If you want to build it, we'll do it in one go and build it better. Lin, he listened to Fatty Lai's price and felt a headache. 200 million? How could it be so much money? But thinking about it, if it was as Fatty Lai said and all the facilities were built, the entire orphanage would be comparable to a small university. It would indeed require a lot of investment. But Lin, he wasn't willing to just build it the same way it was. Actually, we don't need that much. We can do it step by step and build it slowly. Don't invest in the unnecessary things like the computer center, library, and gymnasium for now. If we just build the dormitory and canteen, a few million will be enough. If we have our own land, we won't even need this money. Fatty Lai said, but the beds, tables, and other facilities will add up to 5 million. Do you have any money left? Lin asked. I can definitely take out a few million. If it's too much, it'll affect the company's operations, Fatty Lai said. Forget it. I'll think of something myself. Lin spent 100 million when he participated in the Ice Palace's trial, and it made Fatty Lai's side a little tight. The medical company was still developing rapidly, and it wouldn't work without money. Boss, I'm really ashamed to let you think of something yourself. Fatty Lai was a little embarrassed. It's okay. I understand your difficulties. Lin, he was thinking about where he could get 200 million. Although he could borrow from any noble house, it would still make people think that Lin, he was extorting them. Lin, he thought about it and thought about the old man. He went on missions a few years ago and earned a lot of money, right? Even if it wasn't a few hundred million, it was at least tens of millions. Lin, he felt that he should ask the old man for some money. He called the old man's number, and old Lin's lazy voice came from the other side. Little E, what's the matter? Is everything done over there? Yes, it's all done. I'm calling to borrow some money from you. Lin said. Borrow money? No. Old Lin said straightforwardly. No. Where did the money I earned from the missions I did go? Don't tell me that I only earned tens of yuan from one mission. Lin, he heard old Lin's words and found it funny and annoying at the same time. I didn't want to argue with you before, but I really have something to do now. Wait, I'll send you something. Old Lin didn't answer Lin's question and said, Oh. Lin, he wanted to ask something, but old Lin had already hung up. Not long after, Lin, he received a message on his phone. He opened it and saw a photo of a bunch of receipts. Lin, he zoomed in and took a closer look. They were receipts for donations and remittances. Seeing this, Lin, he was silent. It seemed that old Lin had donated all his money to charity all these years. Thinking about how stingy old Lin was at home, Lin, he felt a little sour in his heart. He used to misunderstand this old man, thinking that he was a stingy person who didn't spend money and even made him work part-time to weave straw sandals for money. But now it seemed that old Lin really didn't enjoy anything at all. As for the money used to raise Lin, it was most likely all from the money he earned from his medical practice in the village. Moreover, his treatment was almost free, and he only earned a little from buying medicine. It wasn't easy for him to raise Lin with this kind of income. Lin sighed and quietly called back. Did you receive it? Old Lin asked straightforwardly. Yes, it's been hard on you all these years, Lin said. Haha, it's nothing. Old Lin laughed and said, What do you need money for? It's similar to what you're doing. I have an orphanage here that caught fire. I want to rebuild it, and I want to build it into a first-class orphanage, Lin said. So, I'm in urgent need of money. I see, old Lin said. Do you still want to carry out missions? This is faster to earn money. If you want, I can help you keep an eye out. Sure, Lin Yi gritted his teeth and agreed. Help me keep an eye out. If there are missions, help me introduce them, but it's best not to go too far. I'll help you take a look. There might not be any. If there is, I'll contact you again, old Lin said. Chapter 17:16. Oh, Shield Bro, you taking on a private job? Isn't your job to protect me and Yao Yao? Yushu asked. Not really. I've already resigned last time. We're just good friends now. Lin Yi smiled. I see. Looks like I can't stop you. Be careful then. Yushu said helplessly. She was actually worried that Lin Yi would be in danger. Last time Lin Yi went to the tomb, he almost died. If it weren't for that boss you being a coward, Lin Yi wouldn't have come back so easily. Yushu was really worried that something would happen to Lin Yi. I will, Lin Yi said. Before I came here, I always took on missions like this. Lin Yi comforted Yushu like that, but he knew that the missions he took on before weren't that high-leveled, so the money wasn't that much. A mission like this with 100 million reward was probably on a different level. It would be even more dangerous. The hidden house you received the news immediately after the common house you was annihilated. Yu Huaxing was going crazy with rage. He didn't think that Lin Yi would be this daring to actually wipe out the common house you. He stormed over to the hidden house Yu's head, Yu Xiaochun, and said in grief, Head Yu, please help us, the common house you, with regard to this matter. I beg you to uphold justice for us. We, the common house you, have been helping the hidden house you earn money, and yet we ended up like this. You must help us, the common house you, get justice. All right, I got it. Yu Huaxing, I'm sorry for your loss. I need to understand the ins and outs of this matter before discussing it with my father. Yu Xiaochun comforted Boss Yu that Lin Yi is an Earth class, and we, the Hidden House, are restricted by the Noble House Council. Earth classes can't come out as they please, so it's not easy to deal with Lin Yi. But that Lin Yi is an Earth class. Isn't he restricted by the Hidden House Council? Yu Huaxing felt that it was unfair. St. Hall, he's a freelancer, and in the past, there were no precedents of freelancers reaching Earth class. Mystic was already very powerful, and most of them relied on the hidden houses when they were at Mystic. Lin Yi is a special case. Yu Xiaochun said, I'll discuss the specifics with my father first. Yes. Yu Huaxing sighed sorrowfully. He didn't think that House Yu would be destroyed so soon after he left. This was like a bolt from the blue. How could he stay calm? He wanted to tear Lin Yi into a million pieces right now. But when he remembered that Lin Yi was also an Earth-class early-phase master, and that he knew martial arts, he backed off. Revenge was important, but staying alive was even more important. Yu Huaxing's Lin Huaxing's heart, Huaxing's Yu's heart, Lin, Xiaochun, Chun Qing. Xiaochun was actually quite annoyed as well. There was a saying that went, look at the master before beating the dog. This Lin Yi had challenged the hidden house, used bottom line time and time again. First, he'd killed one of the common house Yus, and now he'd sent the father and son of the common house Yu to heaven. This was intolerable, but while he wanted to kill Lin Yi as soon as possible, he didn't show it on his face. After all, this was a huge matter, and he couldn't just make a decision on his own. He had to consider the hidden house's entire benefit. If they really wanted to deal with Lin Yi and got impeached by the Hidden House Council, then it wouldn't be worth it. And so, Xiaochun drove up the mountain to find his father, preparing to discuss with him on how to deal with this. On the mountain, it was still Yu Yi who brought Xiaochun to the Elder Yu's training area. Xiaochun, you're here. The Elder Yu looked at Xiaochun and nodded. Father, Yu Huaxing came to me just now. He wants us to help them. Xiaochun said. And I know about this. It's all because of that Lin Yi. The Elder Yu nodded and said faintly, but read this letter first. Oh, what letter? Xiaochun paused. He wasn't surprised that his father knew what was going on outside. Although Xiaochun could be said to have complete control over House Yu, the old ancestors still had a lot of confidence in House Yu. These people were Yu Yi's eyes and ears, and the old ancestors' information came from them. Of course, as long as Xiaochun didn't do anything wrong to House Yu, these people would naturally listen to him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be of much use as the head of the house. This was also why Xiaochen always went to the elder Yu to discuss with him whenever something big happened. But the old Yu suddenly asked him to look at a letter, and this made Xiaochen suspicious. He took the letter from the old Yu's hands and started reading it. It's a letter from Yu Bing? Xiaochen was surprised. He knew the rules of the Ice Palace, and the new outer disciples didn't have the right to communicate with the house as they pleased, but Yu Bing didn't have this restriction. And it seems like Yu Bing is doing quite well in the Ice Palace. The elder Yu praised. If it weren't for Ning, Yu Bing would be the best candidate to be the head of House Yu. Father Ning Shi. Xiaochen didn't know much about Yu Ning either. He only had a rough idea, and the old ancestor of House Yu would never go into details. This was also why he felt that Yu Bing should be the next head of the house. I can't tell you that. It's related to the big secret of House Yu's rise. The elder Yu said, the time isn't right yet, so I can't tell you in detail. The big secret of House Yu's rise? Yu Xiaochen frowned. Isn't Xiao Ning supposed to accept some kind of inheritance? But what kind of inheritance is it? Is there hope? Isn't it something you saw in the ancient ruins? Is it really effective? Ancient ruins? That's just what I told others. It's not true at all. Elder Yu shook his head. Lil Chun, do you really think that we, the hidden House Yu, only rose up because we found a so-called ancient ruin? Do you really think that I, your father, am talented enough to break through to sky class just by looking at the ruins? Then, Xiaochen looked at the elder Yu, confused. All you need to know is that we, the hidden House Yu, actually have a backer up there, and Ning's matter was their idea. Old ancestor, you said. That's all I can say. Don't spread it out. Chapter 1720. The whereabouts of the Qi gathering pill, I know. Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. This was the first time he knew that House Yu had someone backing them. He didn't know this at first, but the elder Yu's words today had shocked him. No wonder his father had always emphasized the importance of Yu Ning. Even when Yu Bing was outstanding, he still looked at her differently. So Yu Ning was someone that the backer of House Yu had his eyes on. Of course, whether or not Ning can stay in House Yu and become the head of the house, I'm not sure, but Ning can become a sky class, that's for sure. The elder Yu said, if Ning can't stay in House Yu, then it's not too late to consider Yu Bing's matter. But right now, the person behind us hasn't said anything, so we can only put Ning first. I see. Xiaochen nodded and continued reading the letter in his hands. But halfway through, he frowned. Why are Yu Bing and Lin Yi together? Why is this kid so reckless? So the Ling Yi that Yushan was talking about, is that Lin Yi? Xiaochen frowned and said angrily. He even called Lin Yi his boss? What's going on? Is he trying to defy the heavens? Xiaochen, your personality is still not mature enough. It's been so many years, and you've had to maintain that dignified image in front of outsiders. It's been hard on you. The elder Yu waved his hand, signaling for Xiaochen to calm down. Xiaochen's face reddened. In front of his father, he revealed his true personality, but in front of outsiders, he had no choice. He was the head of the house, and if he showed his emotions on his face, then he'd be looked down upon. Without Lin Yi, Yu Bing might not even be able to come back alive. Wasn't the letter very clear? The elder Yu said with a look of disgust on his face that Yushan kid is talented, but his intelligence isn't in the right place. He brought this upon himself. This Lin Yi is that strong? He even defeated Zhang Naipeo and Feng Nitian from the ancient sects? Xiaochen didn't really believe it. Yu Bing didn't lie in this letter. Yu Bing was Xiaochen's son, but Yushan said the same thing, and Yu Bing said the same thing. Yushan might have lied more often, but for the sake of fairness, he couldn't just believe Yu Bing's words. This letter is for Ning. Is there a need for Yu Bing to lie? The elder Yu waved his hand and passed another letter to Xiaochen. The one you saw before was for Ning. It's just a casual conversation between siblings. There's no need for Yu Bing to lie, but this is the one Yu Bing asked Ning to pass to us. Oh. Yu Xiaochen quickly took the letter from the elder Yu and started reading it. This letter was a lot more formal than the previous one. Yu Bing first greeted the elders of the house, and then described what happened in the test. But he didn't mention anything about Yu Shan framing him or Lin Yi. After that, Yu Bing changed the topic, saying that Yu Huoxing actually got a qi-gathering pill but didn't give it to House Yu, but took it for himself. Yu Bing was very sure that the source of this information was very accurate. There was someone in the test who could prove this, but he didn't say who it was. "Are you done?" the elder Yu asked. "I read it already." The thing that Yu Bing said. Xiaochen wasn't surprised that the two letters were in the hands of House Yu's old ancestor. On the surface, House Yu was under his control, but in reality, the old ancestor was in charge of most of the things. It should be true. There's no need for him to lie, and Yu Huoxing doesn't have any conflict of interest with him. The elder Yu said, "But it's true that he's friends with Lin Yi, and if we don't go against House Yu because of this, we won't go against Lin Yi. This is probably the reason why Yu Bing brought this up." The elder Yu's eyes were very sharp. He noticed the secret behind it immediately. "I see," Xiaochen realized. He didn't even think about the deeper reason. Then, this Lin Yi is a genius, a freelancer, and he became an Earth-class early phase in just a few years. This is unbelievable. The elder Yu said he had just broken through to Mystic late phase during the test, and now he's an Earth-class early phase? This is a rare talent. "You're right, father." Xiaochun didn't think that his father would praise Lin Yi like this, but for what he could see, this Lin Yi wasn't simple at all. He was able to wipe out the common House Yu, and now he was able to beat Yu Shuixing, who had taken the pill. This was the same as skipping levels. "It's a shame that we don't have the ability to recruit Lin Yi." The elder Yu sighed. "With Ning's relationship, there's no way Lin Yi will be of use to us. Unless Ning marries him, why can't I?" Xiaochen paused. Lin Yi is so young, and he's already in Earth class. This is rare even in the hidden houses, let alone a freelancer. The inheritor must be a virgin girl, or she won't be able to accept the inheritance. The elder Yu said, "This is also why I stopped Ning from dating. These young people, if they act rashly, the consequences will be unimaginable. This is an order from our House Yu's backer. Ning can't be in a relationship. So that's how it is." Xiaochen understood. If Ning can't marry Lin Yi, then we really don't have the ability to recruit Lin. But we don't have to be enemies for now. Elder Yu said, "The Grand Elder of the Hidden Houses Arbitration Council hasn't shown himself in a long time, and the others are getting restless and ready to break the rules. But before they break the rules, we, House Yu, can't be the first bird." "Oh, the other hidden houses want to break the rules as well?" Xiaochen asked. Chapter 17:17. "I see." Yu Xiaochen nodded. Yu Bing's letter gives us an excuse not to stand up for House Yu. Naturally, Elder Yu nodded. "I'll leave these two letters to you. Give one to Ning. Tell her to come visit me when she's free. I want to have a good talk with her. You know what to do with the other one, right?" "Understood. I'll go look for Yu Huoxing right now," Xiaochen said. Yu Huoxing was overjoyed to hear that Yu Xiaochen was looking for him so quickly, thinking that House Yu was going to help the common House Yu. He quickly came to Yu Xiaochen's room and spoke respectfully. "House Yu, may I ask what the elder said? Are you going to avenge our common House Yu? After all, we've been working hard all these years, helping the hidden House Yu earn money. We've been handing over most of it." "Huoxing, it's not that I don't want to help you, but how can we help you with what you've done?" Xiaochen's face was dark. "Do you think that we, the hidden house, yes, are idiots?" Yu Huoxing paused, not understanding what Yu Xiaochen was talking about. "Househead, what? What do you mean?" Yu Huoxing asked nervously. "What do I mean? Take a look at this letter yourself." With that, Yu Xiaochen tossed Yu Bing's letter to Yu Huoxing. Other than greetings to the family, it also talked about Yu Huoxing. There weren't any secrets that he couldn't let Yu Huoxing. "Letter? What letter?" Yu Huoxing looked at Xiaochen's face and had a bad feeling. He carefully took the letter from Xiaochen's hands, but he was a little surprised. This was a letter from home. What did it have to do with him? It seemed like it was from one of House Yu's juniors. Yu Huoxing looked at the signature and saw that it was Yu Bing. He was even more surprised. but he still read it patiently. After all, Xiaochen wouldn't just give him a letter for nothing. There had to be a reason. But when Yu Huasheng read that Yu Bing didn't hand over the qi-gathering pill, his face changed drastically. He didn't understand. How did someone know about this secret back then? I saw the news a few days ago. Weren't the couple, Blackie, and the other grave robbers caught in one fell swoop? Who else knows about this? But no matter what, this matter was exposed, and Yu Bing's tone was very certain. This meant that he had solid proof, and Yu Huasheng couldn't deny it. If Yu Bing had used a maybe or guess tone, then Yu Huasheng would have had some room to maneuver. House head Yu. Yu Huasheng was scared, not knowing how Xiaochen was going to deal with him. He couldn't find an excuse. Could it be that the pill was given to the hidden House Zhao? If he were to tell the truth, not only would he not be able to avenge House Yu, he might even be slapped to death by Yu Xiaochen. So Yu Huasheng's mind raced, trying to think of a reasonable excuse to avoid House Yu's blame. Me what? Can't think of an excuse anymore. Xiaochen laughed coldly. No, I'm a bit embarrassed to say it. Yu Huasheng lowered his head. He'd already thought of an excuse, and he pretended to be embarrassed. What's there to be embarrassed about? Xiaochen frowned. Actually, in the tomb, the male thief was Lin Yi. Yu Huasheng started making up a story. He thought of a way to avoid responsibility and frame Lin Yi at the same time. This way, the hidden house you would target Lin Yi, and Lin Yi would be done for. The male thief was Lin Yi? Xiaochen paused. Then how could the male thief be Lin Yi? Plus, even if it was Lin Yi, what does that have to do with you not handing over the pill? I'm ashamed to say that my pill was stolen by Lin Yi. Yu Huasheng said sadly. Your pill was stolen by Lin Yi? According to what I know, Lin Yi was only a mystic mid-phase peak before he went to the test. Right? You were already in Earth class early phase at that time, and you were still scared of Lin Yi? Xiaochen felt that Yu Huasheng's words were a bit strange. So, that's why I didn't dare tell you the truth. Yu Huasheng said angrily that Lin Yi may be a mystic mid-phase peak, but he is a trump card that's really strong, and I was poisoned. Yes, poisoned. Even if I was in Earth class, I wouldn't be Lin Yi's opponent. And so my pill was stolen by Lin Yi. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Xiaochen wasn't an idiot. Yu Huasheng's words weren't very detailed, and he couldn't just believe it. I was afraid of losing face, wasn't I? I'm an Earth class early phase, and my pill was stolen by mystic mid-phase peak. How would I be able to face anyone if this got out? Yu Huasheng said with a sad face. House head. But you know that Lin Yi does have some tricks up his sleeves. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill my brother. After my brother took the pill, he was on par with an Earth class early phase peak. And since Lin Yi can fight above his level, then I know that Lin Yi has some special abilities, of course. I don't need you to explain. Xiaochen waved his hand. He knew Lin Yi very well. This guy was able to make Feng Nitian and Zhang Naipeo, two disciples from the ancient houses and sects, lose to him. He definitely wasn't a simple character. The question was, how trustworthy could Yu Huasheng's words be? Yes, I'm sorry. House head Yu. I hid the truth before because I was afraid of being punished by the house. Yu Huasheng said carefully. Are you telling the truth? Xiaochen frowned. Of course, I don't dare hide anything. Yu Huasheng said in fear. If that's the case, then I'll write a letter and ask Yu Bing if Lin Yi really took the pill. Xiaochen said coldly, as if he didn't believe Yu Huasheng's words. But in reality, Xiaochen believed most of it already. Yu Bing was on good terms with Lin Yi during the test, so the news of Yu Huasheng getting the pill was most likely from Lin Yi as well. Lin Yi and the common house Yu were enemies, and Lin Yi was probably trying to use Yu Bing to spread the news to the hidden house Yu, and have them deal with Yu Huasheng, or at least not participate in the battle between Lin Yi and the common house Yu. Chapter 17-18. Otherwise, where would Yu Bing have gotten this information from? Don't. Yu Huasheng jumped when he heard that Xiaochen was going to ask him. He subconsciously tried to stop him, but regretted it immediately. Wouldn't it mean that he was guilty if he stopped him? Don't? What? You're afraid that your lie will be exposed? Xiaochen had already believed most of it, but now that Yu Huaxing was saying this, he was starting to doubt himself. St. Hall, no. I mean, if you ask him like this, how would Lin Yi admit to it? Yu Huaxing said, I'm guessing that it was Lin Yi who told young Master Yu that I got the qi-gathering pill, and his goal was to make you blame me. But you're a wise man. How would you fall for that easily? Yu Huaxing was a careful man. He'd heard Xiaochen's words very carefully. He caught on to the fact that Lin Yi had joined the test as well, so he'd be able to frame Lin Yi. No need to flatter me. Get to the point. Xiaochen waved his hand, not buying it. Yes. Yu Huaxing continued his analysis. So, think about it. If you were young Master Yu Bing's good friend, would you admit that you stole their qi-gathering pill? What you said is not without reason. Xiaochen nodded, but I'd still write a letter to ask if Lin Yi was the male thief, if he participated in the tomb robbery. That. Yu Huaxing was scared, but he couldn't say it out loud. Look, Master, since young Master Yu Bing didn't mention Lin Yi in the letter, it means that he's trying to cover for Lin Yi. How would he admit to it if you asked? If it were me, I'd deny it as well. Oh, it doesn't matter. We just need to pay attention to the technique when we ask. Xiaochen waved his hand casually. When the time comes, I'll just ask him directly. Why didn't he tell me that Lin Yi was a male thief and that he got the qi-gathering pill as well? Why did he hide the truth? I didn't explain in detail and pretended that I knew everything to reproach him. That. Yu Huaxing was a little helpless. He had no reason to argue anymore. One had to admit that Xiaochen's suggestion was very logical. As a member of House Yu Bing wouldn't dare hide anything under such a harsh tone. But if Yu Bing really didn't know anything, no matter how much he blamed him, no matter how much he pretended to know everything, Yu Bing wouldn't admit it. Therefore, Yu Huaxing was worried that he had said it on the spur of the moment. What would he do when the truth came out? All right, it's decided then. Xiaochen waved his hand. If it really was Lin Yi, then I won't make it hard for you. I know that Lin Yi has some skills, but if you're just making it up, then you know the consequences. With that, Xiaochen waved his hand impatiently and picked up his teacup. Yu Huaxing knew that Xiaochen was asking him to leave, and he could only sigh helplessly. There was no point in talking about this. He could only wait for the final result. Yu Huaxing walked back to his place, only to realize that Yu Lu was following him, and it was very blatantly. He knew that he was being watched. I hope that Yu Bing can help me as well. Yu Huaxing prayed for a miracle in his heart. Xiaochen watched as Yu Huaxing left and quickly rushed to the old ancestors' practicing grounds. This was a huge matter, and he had to discuss it with his father. The old ancestor was a little curious about Xiaochen's return. I say, Xiaochen, why are you back? Is it because of Yu Huaxing? Yes, it's because of Yu Huaxing. Xiaochen was impressed by his father's sharp eyes. He nodded quickly. St. Hall, you can't even make a decision on such a small matter? The old ancestor was a little surprised. Xiaochen wasn't someone like that before. Dealing with Yu Huaxing wasn't a big deal. Was there a need to discuss it with him? There's something else going on here. Xiaochen shook his head. Father, I did as you asked and showed the letter to Yu Huaxing, and he told me the reason behind it. Oh? What reason? The old ancestor was curious as well. What secret could there be? It's like this. Xiaochen repeated what Yu Huaxing had said, as well as his analysis of the suspicious points, as well as the credibility of the words. According to what he said, it's possible, but also impossible. The old ancestor nodded. Writing a letter and asking is the right thing to do. You can make the decision yourself. Just tell me the result. It's not a big deal. Yes, I'll write a letter and ask now, Xiaochen replied. After returning from the old ancestor's training grounds, the first thing Xiaochen did was to write a letter blaming Lin Yi. Of course, he didn't go into the details, but he used an affirmative tone to say that he knew that Lin Yi had participated in the tomb robbery, and that Lin Yi had gotten the qi-gathering pill. Why didn't Yu Bing report this? As for the details, Xiaochen didn't mention anything. This was also because he didn't want to expose himself. If Yu Bing really did have something to hide, he'd definitely give an explanation after reading this letter. He wrote too much, and it felt like he was trying to cover something up. After writing the letter, Xiaochen walked quickly to his daughter's room. Xiaochen was an Earth-class late-phase peak, and if he didn't make any noise, Yuning wouldn't be able to hear anything. The other disciples and servants of house, you naturally wouldn't stop him when they saw him. And so, Xiaochen came to Yuning's room without any obstructions, only to find that she was painting. Xiaochen didn't mind that Yuning was painting, but when he saw the person in the painting, he frowned. Ahem. Xiaochen coughed twice. Yuning jumped in fright, and the brush in her hand shook. The painting was ruined. She didn't think that someone would suddenly appear in the quiet room. And when Yuning turned around, she realized that it was her father. Her face reddened, and she wanted to pull down her drawing board. I've already seen it. There's no need to hide it. Xiaochen had wanted to have a good talk with his daughter, but seeing how infatuated she was still drawing Lin E. Target equals _blank. Chapter 17-19. In the painting, there was a man and a woman sitting together in an empty field, looking up at the starry sky. The woman in the painting was Yuning. This made Xiaochen even angrier. So what if he sees it? Yuning was stubborn as well. Since her father saw it, there was no point in hiding it anymore. Sir, you and Lin E will never happen. Xiaochen said coldly, I talked to your grandpa today. Your identity is different. You and Lin E will never be together in this life. Stop dreaming. Yuning pursed her lips and didn't say anything, but from her expression, it was clear that she didn't listen to Xiaochen's words at all. After all, she'd heard it too many times and was numb to it. However, she never gave up on that stubbornness. Closing her eyes, Yuning would remember that year, that night, that Valentine's Day, in front of the fire in the cave, the two of them looking at the starry sky together. That was the happiest night Yuning had ever had, and it was a time she'd dreamed of thousands of times. This is a letter from Yubing, Xiaochen said helplessly, seeing that his daughter wasn't saying anything. He placed the letter on Yuning's desk and turned to leave. Remember what I said. Lin E may have some skills, but he's not worthy of your identity. You're destined to become a sky class of House U, and a sky class late phase peak at that. Lin E will never be able to surpass you in this lifetime. Dad, don't underestimate him. Yuning wasn't too happy. No one wanted their lover to be belittled by their parents like that. Underestimate? Xiaochen shook his head. Ning, you don't understand it yet, but you'll understand when you get to that step. I'm not afraid of hurting your confidence, but unless Lin E has the strength to surpass all the ancient sects, don't even think about it. I believe he'll do it. Yuning said. Him? Do it? Xiaochen was amused by his daughter's stubbornness. He couldn't imagine that his daughter would be this infatuated, believing in something like this. From childhood to adulthood, my sixth sense has always been very accurate, Yuning insisted. Xiaochen shook his head and didn't say anything else. He felt that his daughter had already gone crazy, and there was no point in saying anything more. He could only turn around and leave, letting his daughter think things through on her own. Yuning was at home anyways, and there was no chance for her to see Lin E. Xiaochen wasn't worried. Lin E and Yushu returned to Songshan, and the first thing they did after dropping Yushu off at home was go to the floating cloud bar. At this moment, the bar had not opened yet. The waiter was cleaning the bar, but the door of the bar was kicked open. Lin E didn't waste any time and directly barged in. It wasn't the first time he came to the floating cloud bar, so he was familiar with the place. Siwa had brought Boss Zhu to the orphanage early in the morning to negotiate with the headmaster of the orphanage. He wanted to settle things as soon as possible before anything else happened. Although the fire had destroyed his building, it was still a big crime to set fire to the orphanage. He was afraid that the orphanage wouldn't let him off easily, and if things got out of hand, he'd be in big trouble. Jianong was assigning tasks to the waiters when he saw Lin E barge in. He jumped in shock. Not good, Lin Yi's here. Jianong yelled, warning Zhao Qibing and Yao Wang in the room. Zhao Qibing was in the middle of it all, and he almost went mad from Su Jiaonong's shout. Although he didn't go mad, all his previous efforts were in vain. The pure qi he had accumulated for the entire night had all dissipated in fear. Lin Yi, what are you doing here? Zhao Qibing was a little traumatized. Seeing Lin Yi, he couldn't help but feel the pain in his leg. He couldn't even stand straight. You don't know why I'm here? Lin Yi looked at Zhao Qibing with a smile that wasn't a smile. How would I know? Zhao Qibing remembered that he was now Elder Bai's direct disciple, and his courage returned. Why would he be afraid of Lin Yi? He was now one of the candidates for the head of the house. He was no longer the Zhao Qibing from before. Oh, I'm actually here to break your leg, Lin Yi said as he walked towards Zhao Qibing. You, don't do anything stupid. Zhao Qibing jumped in fright. He wanted to ask Boss Zhu for help, but he suddenly remembered that Boss Zhu was taken away by Cihua to threaten the orphanage's headmaster. In his bar, other than Yao Wang, a mystic class master who wasn't very good at fighting, there was only Uncle Zhu, the cripple. It's fine if I don't do anything stupid. You burned the orphanage, right? Lin Yi asked. Me? How is that possible? My building has been burned down. How can I be the one who burned it? I'm also looking for the arsonist. Zhao Qibing denied flatly. He thought that Lin Yi really was here for the orphanage. Why did this guy like to stick his nose into other people's business? They didn't earn much money from the reconstruction of the slums, and the compensation they gave to the residents was the highest standard. He wanted to earn some money from the orphanage, but this Lin Yi was sticking his nose into other people's business again. Oh, there's no need to look for him. I found him for you. It's you, Lin Yi said. Me? Lin Yi, don't talk nonsense. Zhao Qibing knew that he wasn't the same as before, but he was still afraid of Lin Yi. If I say it's me, then it's me. Lin Yi said, do you want me to break your leg before you admit it? Zhao Qibing was speechless. He didn't want to admit it, so he broke his leg to force him to admit it? Who would do something like that? But thinking back to Lin Yi's domineering style, he really might do it. Lin Yi's story had spread across the world. Lin Yi had destroyed the common house Yu, and Zhao Qibing didn't doubt that Lin Yi would break his leg if Lin Yi dared to mess with the hidden house Yu. What was the hidden house Zhao to him? Is it me or not? I'll count to 3. If you don't admit it, then I'll break your leg. 2 last time, 3 this time, Lin Yi said impatiently. Then it's me who burned it. Zhao Qibing had no choice but to admit it. Lin Yi could even beat a drug Yu Shuixing to death. So even if Boss Zhu was here, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin Yi. Unless Elder Bai made him move himself, he wouldn't be able to hurt Lin Yi at all. But with the Hidden House Association, Elder Bai couldn't walk around the common world. A wise man knows when to retreat, and Zhao Qibing could only admit it, even though he didn't know what Lin Yi was planning. Since you've admitted it, then it's easy. Pay up, Lin Yi said. You burned down an orphanage, you have to pay at least 30 to 50 million, right? Plus the money you owe me last time. Give me 200 million. Chapter 1720. Qibing finally understood why Lin Yi was here. He was here to ask for money. But where did Qibing have the money? He still owed Bloodstained Yellow Springs sect 300 million. And now Lin Yi was here to ask for 200 million? How was he supposed to live? Even if Qibing sold everything he had, he wouldn't be able to pay this amount of money. Are you going to give it to me or not? Lin Yi frowned. He was getting impatient. I can give it to you, but I really don't have that much money right now. Look at my building, everything was burned down, and my real estate company hasn't even made any money yet. I'm already losing money, and I've already rebuilt 3 buildings. Qibing said bitterly. Then can I owe it to you first? Owe it to you? How long do you owe? Lin Yi saw that Qibing really didn't have any money, so he didn't force him. 2 years, within 2 years, I'll definitely pay you back. I can write an IOU, Qibing said. He wanted to get rid of Lin Yi first. Who knows, he might be able to become an Earth-class master in 2 years. By then, he wouldn't have to be afraid of Lin Yi anymore. Oh, then write it. Lin Yi didn't expect Qibing to give him any money. This guy was so poor that his building was destroyed 3 times. He was probably broke as well. Extorting a few million from him wouldn't be enough for him to do anything. Qibing had no choice but to write an IOU to Lin Yi. But Lin Yi frowned after looking at the IOU. You owe me for 2 years and you don't even have any interest? I have a few million in the bank, right? Interest? Can I not? Qibing didn't want to give him the money at all, but he was instinctively afraid of Lin Yi. He was afraid that when Lin Yi became stronger, he would have to pay him back. It's fine if you don't want it. Lin Yi put the IOU in his pocket and said, then I'll collect some interest now. Now. Qibing was quite happy when he heard the first half of Lin Yi's sentence, but when he heard the second half, he almost fell to the ground. But before Qibing could sit down, 2 crisp sounds were heard, and he fell onto the ground, because his leg was broken by Lin Yi again. Ouch! Qibing groaned in pain, but he was a practitioner now, so he could still hold it in. He endured the pain in his leg, sweating profusely. You didn't keep your word. Didn't you say you'd stop fighting if I paid you back? Didn't I leave you a leg? Could it be that you want to break your 3rd leg as well? As Lin Yi spoke, he raised his leg and pretended to step down. Qibing shook his head. No, I don't want to. He admitted that he was unlucky. Now that he met Lin Yi, he really couldn't do anything, but he swore in his heart that one day he would torture Lin Yi to death. He wanted to break every bone in Lin Yi's body and let him have a taste of this pain. I'll burn this bar down for you. If you dare to put it out, I'll burn it down in the middle of the night. If you can't escape, then don't blame me for not reminding you. As Lin Yi spoke, a flame appeared in his hand. He casually threw it on the wooden decorations of the bar, and it lit up in flames. Lin Yi, on the other hand, turned and walked out of the bar. After Lin Yi left, Su Jiaonong, who was hiding at the side, ran over. Master Bing, what do we do now? Should we call the police and put out the fire? Put out my ass, let it burn. Didn't you hear what Lin Yi said? If I put out the fire, what if he comes back in the middle of the night? Qibing raged. Why aren't you carrying me out? Ask everyone in the bar to leave. Do you want to burn me to death? Yes. Yes. Su Jiaonong wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly replied. In House Chu's villa, Yushu was excitedly telling Meng Yao and Tang Yun about what happened during the noble house meeting. That old bastard Shuaixing thought that he could go on a killing spree just because he took the pill and became an Earth-class early phase. At that time, the atmosphere was really tense. All the families that were close to Shield Bro were in danger. My grandpa, Grandpa Wu, and Grandpa Song were all very worried. Yushu described the scene vividly, making Meng Yao and Tang Yun's hearts skip a beat. At that time, Shield Bro appeared, and in an instant he showed his strength as an Earth class, making that old bastard Shuaixing jump in fright. Everyone's jaw dropped as well. So Shield Bro was an Earth class as well. Yushu described in detail, making Tang Yun and Meng Yao feel as if the whole thing was happening right in front of their eyes. She took a sip of ice water and said, It's so hot. Why is it so hot? Is the air conditioner on? It's on, Meng Yao said bitterly. Tang Yun and I are freezing, and you're saying it's hot? Don't make so many exaggerated gestures when you're telling the story. Ugh, is that so? Yushu stuck out her tongue, giggling. Then it wouldn't be interesting. Let's continue. When we were talking about Shield Bro, that old bastard Shuaixing didn't dare to go head-to-head with Shield Bro. So he went to attack my brother. He was about to hit my brother, and Shield Bro couldn't stop him in time. That was when Shield Bro shouted, Earth-class skill, Frenzy Fire Fist. That old bastard Shuaixing jumped in fright and dodged immediately. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't see any skill, and only then did he realize that he was tricked. Shield Bro didn't use any skill at all. He was just tricking him. Huh. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were amused as well. They didn't expect Lin Yi to be this shameless. Why did it feel like Yushu's style? And then that old bastard Shuaixing got pissed off, saying that Shield Bro tricked him. I'm still so hot. I didn't even move. Why am I still so hot? Yushu said as she drank another mouthful of ice water. You're too excited, aren't you? Tang Yun said. Do you want me to get some ice cream? Sure, Yushu said. I want the super big ones. But I'm still so hot right now. These pajamas are too hot. I'll just take them off. With that, Yushu took off her pajamas, leaving only her bra on. Shu, what are we going to do when Lenny comes back like this? Meng Yao frowned. It's fine, I'll put them back on in a bit. But it doesn't matter if he sees it. He's seen it a couple of times already. Yushu said nonchalantly. Meng Yao didn't say anything more. Yushu was just like that, always feeling hot for no reason. She didn't even wear clothes at home. Chapter 1725. Shu is sick. Part 2. Things had gotten better after Lin Yi's arrival, but it seemed that things were starting to get worse again. It's so hot. It's better to be naked. Yushu didn't wait for Meng Yao to say anything before taking off her bra and pajamas, leaving only her underwear on. She started running around the room like a headless fly. It's so hot. So hot, I'm going to die from the heat. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. There was a sea of white and 2 super large papayas in front of her. It was making her dizzy. Shu, the more you run, around the hotter you'll get. Calm down and wait for Yin Yin to get you some ice cream. Oh, Yushu stopped, but it still seemed like she was still hot. Tang Yin came back at this time and was shocked to see Yushu naked. Luckily, the 3 of them had showered together before, so it wasn't too shocking. Shu, here's some ice cream. It's not very good for you to be like this. Give it to me. Give it to me. Yushu took the ice cream from Tang Yun, but the moment her hand touched the ice cream melted into a puddle of liquid, and in the blink of an eye, it flowed all over the floor. This ice cream. Tang Yun thought that the fridge was broken, but she looked at the other 2 ice creams in her hands. Yushu's ice cream was the only one that melted. Meng Yao, on the other hand, realized that something was wrong as well. She reached out to touch Yushu, only to have the latter jump in fright as she pulled her hand back with a yelp. Why is it so hot? Shu, Yao, I feel like I'm getting cooked. What should I do? What should I do? Yushu's fair skin was starting to turn an unnatural shade of red. It was the color of a cooked crab. What's going on? Tang Yin was a little confused. Yao, why don't you go online and check what's going on? Okay. Meng Yao nodded quickly and picked up the tablet beside her to check Shu's symptoms. Lin Yi was looking for trouble with Lin Yi, so Meng Yao didn't want to disturb Lin Yi by calling him. Did you find it? Tang Yun asked. I found it, but the internet says that Shu's symptoms are due to an aphrodisiac. Meng Yao looked at the screen with a weird expression. It says that after a girl is drugged, her body will heat up and she will take off her clothes. Tang Yun looked at the explanation on the screen and looked at Shu. Why didn't it seem like it? She blushed and said embarrassedly, That's not right. I was drugged with that drug once. But after that, not only did I heat up, and I really want to do that. That's right, Shu looks pretty normal. She doesn't look like she's been drugged. Plus, she came back with Lin. There's no way anyone would have had the chance to do that. It can't be Lin. Meng Yao nodded as she tossed the laptop aside. Whatever, let's not look into it anymore. Yeah, Shield bro doesn't even need to drug Shu. It's so hot. I just feel hot. Nothing else. Yushu nodded. Why don't you try taking a cold shower? Tang Yun was sweating after hearing Yushu's words. She quickly suggested. Okay, Yao. Yin, help me turn on the water. I feel like I'm burning up. It's so uncomfortable. Yushu moaned in pain. Meng Yao and Tang Yun quickly ran to the bathroom to put cold water in Yushu's bathtub. Tang Yun was confused. What's wrong with Shu? Was she like this before too? I don't know. She used to say it was hot all the time, taking off all her clothes in the villa in the middle of winter. I didn't pay much attention to it before because I thought she liked not wearing clothes. But it's never been this serious before. Meng Yao was panicking as well. She looked at the running water and wanted it to be bigger. Maybe we should give Lenny a call? Let him take a look at Shu? Tang Yin didn't know what to do. Yushu couldn't have matured so quickly. Could she? How can we call Lin Yi when Shu's like this? Meng Yao smiled bitterly. She's hiding her illness. Tang Yun smiled bitterly as well. Shu doesn't care about it, and neither do I. We can't just carry her to the hospital like this, right? If there's no other way, we can only call Lenny back. Meng Yao nodded helplessly. Tang Yin was right. If she and Shu didn't care, why should she be nervous? Besides, it was better to let Lin Yi see than to let others see, right? Plus, it wasn't the first time Shu had been seen. She was always saying that she wanted to be Lin Yi's mistress, so it wasn't a big deal to have a look. After the cold water was ready, Yu Shu ran in impatiently, took off her underwear, and jumped into the bathtub. Not only did the cold water fail to cool her down, it even started boiling and bubbling. It was as if Yu Shu was being cooked. Yu Shu jumped out of the bathtub with a whoosh and screamed, "It's hot, it's hot! Shu, you're hotter than boiling water. You're boiling the water." Meng Yao shook her head as she picked up her phone. "I'll call Lin Yi. It looks like you're sick." Lin Yi received Meng Yao's call as soon as he left the floating cloud bar. "Miss? What's wrong? What's wrong?" Lin Yi was just about to head home when Meng Yao's call came in unexpectedly. Meng Yao wasn't monitoring Lin Yi like she used to these days, and she didn't ask him to come home at a certain time either. "What, miss? I'm not joking with you." "Something happened at home. Something happened. Can you come back and take a look?" Meng Yao was a little hesitant when she said the words, but the best way to solve a problem like this was to find Lin. No one else would do. "Shu, something happened." Lin Yi paused. "You just sent Shu home not long ago, and she was fine. What happened?" "Yeah, you'll know when you come back. I don't know how to explain it. Her whole body was hot. Then she took off all her clothes like a cooked lobster." Meng Yao said, "Hot all over? Took off all her clothes?" Lin Yi paused. "Then wait for me to go back and take a look." Lin Yi's words were a little ambiguous. Going back and taking a look, was it to see Shu naked or her illness? Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1721. Chapter 1726. Shu is sick. Part 2. Chapter 1726. Shu is sick. Part 2. Meng Yao was a little embarrassed, but when Lin Yi hung up the phone, she realized that she was thinking too much. Lin Yi sped up the car and rushed back to the villa. Lin Yi opened the door himself, and Meng Yao and Tang Yin were standing at the bathroom door, each holding a water gun to spray Yu Shu's body to lower her temperature. The flowing water was better. Although it would boil instantly, it absorbed most of Yu Shu's body temperature. Lin Yi went upstairs and heard the sound of water in the bathroom. He hesitated and asked at the door, "Can I go in?" "Lin Yi, you're back." Tang Yin quickly opened the door. "Hurry up and check on Shu. She can't take it anymore." Lin Yi saw the scene in the bathroom and was shocked. Tang Yun and Meng Yao were spraying water on Shu's body, but when the water touched Shu's body, it seemed to boil instantly, making a sizzling sound and emitting steam. It was like she was in a sauna, but the steam was made by Shu herself. What happened to her? When Lin Yi sent Shu back, she was still fine, but after going out for a walk, she became like this. Lin Yi didn't have time to admire Shu's body because her whole body had turned red. "We're not sure. She told us about your experience at the Noble House meeting, and then she said it was hot, so she took off her clothes, and then it got hotter and hotter." Meng Yao quickly explained what happened. "I did." Lin Yi braved the water gun and walked to Shu's side. Just when he put his hand on her wrist to feel her pulse, Lin Yi subconsciously pulled his hand away, and Lin Yi gritted his teeth. Lin Yi glanced at his hand. It was covered in blisters. The temperature was at least 100 degrees Celsius, but what puzzled Lin Yi was that Shu didn't seem to be burned. Although her body was red, it didn't cause any big problems. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been burnt to death. Lin Yi activated the art of dragon mastery and quickly healed his burn wounds. Then, he used his chi to protect his hand and went to feel Shu's pulse. "Shield bro. I'm so hot. Can you carry me to the ice palace to keep me company? I'm dying," Yu Shu said, panting. Lin Yi did not reply. Instead, he frowned deeply. Inside Yu Shu's body, Lin Yi didn't find anything wrong with it. It was like a normal person, but there was an inexplicable heat. "You didn't find anything wrong with you? Shu doesn't seem to be sick." Lin Yi shook his head and said, "What's going on?" "It's a little similar to Xiao Xiao's. Xiao Xiao's body is extremely cold, and yours is extremely hot, but there are no other symptoms? Shu isn't sick? Meng Yao was shocked. Then you guys maintain it for a while. I'll call my old man and ask him if he has seen something like this. Lin Yi had no choice but to ask old Lin for help. Lin Yi quickly went out of the bathroom. In the bathroom, Lin Yi felt unbearably hot, and he was covered in water as if he had just taken a sauna. Lin Yi took out his phone and wanted to call old Lin, but his phone was soaked in water. He couldn't use it all. Lin Yi quickly ran downstairs and used the landline in the living room to call old Lin. "E, you're calling me again so soon?" Old Lin picked up the phone. It was a little strange. Lin Yi had called him about the orphanage, and not long after, the second call came. "Old man, I need to ask you something. If a person's whole body is hot, but there are no other symptoms after a check, what's going on?" Lin Yi asked urgently. "Oh, what do you mean by a whole body is hot, but there are no other symptoms after a check? Explain it in detail." Old Lin didn't quite understand Lin Yi's question. "It's like this." Lin Yi explained Yushu's situation to old Lin in detail. "That's how it is. I feel like I'm at my wit's end right now. Do you have any ideas? Why do you think this situation is similar to the legendary fire poison?" Old Lin was stunned. "Fire poison? No way. Xiao Xiao has the cold poison, and now there's the fire poison?" Lin Yi was also stunned. Xiao Xiao doesn't have the cold poison. It's just similar to the cold poison. But her situation is really hard to say. Old Lin shook his head and said, "I can't say for sure right now. Why don't you bring her to me?" "Bring her? Then she can't die, right?" Lin Yi asked with a bitter smile. "According to what you said, if she hasn't been burned to death after so long, then she won't die." Old Lin said, "There shouldn't be a problem. Okay, if there's no other way, I'll bring her back." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. At the same time, in the bathroom upstairs, Yushu suddenly waved her hand at Meng Yao and Tang Yun. "Right? I remember, I've had this problem since I was young. In the second drawer of the bedside table in my bedroom, there's a small bottle with special medicine in it. Just bring it to me, huh?" "Okay." Meng Yao heard Yushu's words and quickly replied. She threw down the water gun and quickly ran back to the room. As expected, she found a delicate small bottle in the drawer of the bedside table. She picked it up and quickly ran back to the bathroom. "Shu, is this it?" "In. Hurry up and take the pill out for me." Yushu looked at it, nodded, and said hurriedly, "Okay." Meng Yao nodded and opened the small bottle. There was a pill inside. "Is this it? Why does it feel like it was licked by someone? Did the sugar on the outside melt?" "Oh, maybe it was sprayed by Yun's water gun. Give it to me." Yushu opened her mouth. Meng Yao remembered that this was the life-saving pill Yushu was waiting for. She didn't dare to ask anymore and quickly threw the pill into Yushu's mouth. Yushu swallowed the pill, and after a while, she suddenly shivered and shouted, "Wow, it's so cold. Turn off the water valve. I'm freezing to death." Tang Yin paused, but saw that Yushu's skin color had returned to normal. She quickly turned off the water valve and said, "You're okay?" Yes, I'm freezing to death. I need a towel to wipe myself." Yushu nodded. "I'm freezing to death. I'm freezing to death." Hashtag, you can see your. Chapter 1722. Treating a guest, Ming Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she watched Yushu walking around in circles. She was the complete opposite of what she was doing before. Lin Yi had come up the stairs as well. He was just about to go into the washroom to check on Yushu when he saw a white body running out. Lin Yi, an Earth class early phase, accidentally bumped into the body. So comfortable. That was Lin Yi's first feeling. The second feeling was that his body felt cold, as if someone was glaring at him. Lin Yi turned around and saw Tang Yun smiling. Lin Yi paused and let go of Shu awkwardly. "Huh? Shu, how come you're fine?" "Miracle, Dr. Lin. You're so powerful, and you still can't see that Shu's skin color is normal? Even an Earth-class master couldn't hide from it. What would you do if it was an enemy?" Tang Yun was a little jealous. If it was under other circumstances, She wouldn't know, but Lin Yi was flirting with Shu in front of her. This made her unhappy. Ugh. Lin Yi didn't think that his subconscious action was seen through by Tang Yun. To be honest, Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. He just couldn't resist the temptation and made a small mistake. Tang Yun caught him red-handed, which made him embarrassed. I was too anxious and didn't pay attention. Meng Yao naturally understood and covered her mouth to hide her laughter. So Tang Yun still had a little temper. It had been hard on her recently. She had been tolerating Lin Yi and Shu, and today, she finally exploded under Lin Yi's evil actions. All right, it's fine now. Tang Yun was just pointing it out. If she didn't let it go, not only would it embarrass Lin Yi, but it would also make Meng Yao look down on her. So Tang Yun only warned Lin Yi. Shu ran to the bedroom to wipe her body. Lin Yi laughed dryly and said, How did she recover? I'm not too sure, but Shu said that it's an old problem of hers. She suddenly remembered that she had a special medicine and asked me to get it for her. She'll be fine after taking it. Meng Yao explained. Special medicine? What special medicine? Lin Yi asked. This is it. Meng Yao handed the bottle to Lin Yi. Is there more in here? That's all? Lin Yi looked at the bottle in his hand. The craftsmanship was extremely exquisite, but it was empty. There were no pills inside. Nope, just one pill. Meng Yao said, I see. Lin Yi put the bottle under his nose and took a sniff. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary, only the scent of sugar coating. It seemed that the pill was covered in sugar, and nothing else could be detected from the inside of the bottle. Yeah, we'll have to ask Shu later. We have a lot of questions, too, Meng Yao shrugged. When Yushu came out of the bedroom again, she was already in her pajamas. Her face was back to normal. Shu, are you all right? Meng Yao asked with lingering fear. Yeah, I'm fine. Yushu shook her head and smiled. Hee hee, I made you guys worry. Shu, what's going on? I heard from Yao Yao that it's an old problem. Lin Yi looked at Shu's complexion. She was indeed back to normal. She was like a different person from before. Yeah, it's an old problem. It acted up when I was young, but it never acted up again after I grew up. Yushu nodded. I almost forgot. There's a special medicine I brought from home. I didn't think it'd take so many years to use. Special medicine? Did you see a doctor when you were young? Lin Yi asked as he fiddled with the bottle in his hand. Yeah, I did. It's fine. Yushu said casually. The doctor said that it'll be fine for a long time after I eat it. What do you do if it happens again? Lin Yi asked. Do you have more of this medicine? Let me study it. I'll see if I can find the formula. Oh, it's at home. I'll go get it when I'm free next time. Yushu said. All right. Lin Yi calmed down after hearing Yushu's words. All right, I'm fine now. To celebrate, let's go out for a big meal tonight? Yushu suggested. She didn't want to talk about it anymore. Sure, what do you want? Lin Yi asked with a smile. Let's go eat steak? I'm craving steak. Yushu said. Sure, I'll make a call and book a table at a Western restaurant. Meng Yao nodded. Meng Yao was just about to make the call when her phone rang. Daddy? Why are you calling me at this hour? Meng Yao found it odd that the call was from Pengzhan. He usually called Meng Yao in the morning to let her know that he was safe. He rarely called in the afternoon. Yao Yao, are you free tonight? Want to go out for dinner? Pengzhan said. Tonight? Dinner? Only you? Meng Yao blinked, not understanding why her father would want to go out for dinner tonight. It wasn't a weekend, nor was a holiday. She didn't know why it was so sudden. It's your uncle and Mingwei and Jiangwen. Pengzhan sighed. They're old neighbors, and they came back to Songshan all of a sudden. They wanted to arrange a dinner for us. I couldn't reject them, so I agreed. Pengzhan actually liked Jiangwen quite a bit at first, but after Housen moved away, the two families only worked together in business. Today, Pengzhan didn't know what to do with Jiangwen's sudden visit, but he couldn't reject them because of his pride. After all, the two families had always been in business with each other, and they were old neighbors. Pengzhan couldn't reject them. Is that so? Meng Yao frowned. She wants to eat steak. Where are they treating us? We haven't confirmed the place yet. I'll let them know if you agree. Pengzhan said, we don't know if you're free today, so we're not sure, but steak is fine. I'll tell them to go to a Western restaurant. All right, but bring Lin Yi and Tang Yun. Is that okay? Meng Yao asked. Of course. Pengzhan smiled. It's just a family dinner. All right, I'll wait for your call, Daddy. Meng Yao replied. Yushu hung up the phone. Yao Yao, someone's treating us? Hashtag target equals underscore blank. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.